this is what it's all about. This could potentially be the game that sends Afreeca Freecs to Busan.
Certainly could be. Let's jump into game number 4, pick and ban right now. Well, here we go. KT gonna choose the blue side here for game number 4. They're gonna go ahead and ban Skarner this time around.
3 games in a row, we have seen the blue side chosen. Only Afreeca have been able to win, as we see Trundle ban on blue side as well.
They're like, we're gonna pick Olaf. What are you gonna do?
They're also saying, well, banning out this Kramer guy didn't work. Let's find someone else to try to beat up, and it's gonna be Mowgli, who of course played a lot less games this season than Spirit, but has still played a pretty decent amount. I think it's around 12 games that he's played so far in the spring season. So 2 bans so far into the jungle. Like you say, big sign that Olaf first pick is coming. Will probably be at a pretty significant cost, and this is an interesting ban. You think to the previous game, you're like, what champion would I want to adjust? Adjusting the Kalista, sorry, not the Kalista, that's in my mind for some reason. The Karma is the choice they make. They ban away Karma, they do draw an Olaf ban, but they don't want Kuro to be able to neutralize something like the Taliyah, and so far Kuro hasn't shown priority on the Taliyah. That does mean that both Xayah and Rakan are up, and I think we're going to get star-crossed lovers, because why wouldn't Tucson go back to the Rakan?
Why not is the question. I mentioned you might want to go ahead and ban out Tucson, but I suppose the answer is no, we're not going to, as they just go ahead and ban everything else. We're looking at a Caitlyn here, and that is going to be locked in this time around for Kramer.
Will they prize the Xayah, say the Rakan, and deny the Xayah Rakan? Because Caitlyn would be a bit more lane presence, and it would also be a bit more latitude to take the Rakan support. You'd have to do it now, but then the jungle pool starts to get narrow as well, so jungle or support is kind of the conundrum you have here if you're Mowgli, and it seems like they decide to go for the jungle pick over the potential to lock in the Rakan away, and this is a big denial away from Tucson not taking the Rakan. He is a power Rakan player. Does mean that score is down for junglers on a patch where a lot of people prefer other choices. The Gragas is up here and would be a very stable choice into the Sejuani. Score played it in the last series. Will we see something like Rakan Gragas from KT?
Rakan is obvious, but what's going to be the answer in the jungle? As you mentioned before, already the Skarner taken away. They're not even going to pick it just yet. They're going to let more bans flow through. They pick up Taliyah again for UCal.
Means that mid lane pick could be decided here, but will we just see the choice from the West? We will. Morgana support going to come out. Really big pick in the NALCS especially, because Rakan is all about flash into the quickness and then layering it into the grand entrance and the back shield and this ore of it. So it is a very nice laning. It's also double ranged in a more pronounced way than Rakan is a ranged champion. And there's been Xayah Rakan Nurse as recently. So we're on patch 8.6. So there is a lot of reasons why Afreeca will be pretty happy with the Caitlyn Morgana into the Xayah Rakan. Don't see any more jungle bans so far, as the Gnar is actually going to be banned away. Smab will be forced to blind pick his top laner in this game, most likely.
Yeah, looking that way. Lots of mid lane bans bound to come through, as still the pool is quite wide. Want to take away that big power pick in the Azir first. Could go ahead and ban something else for the top lane, perhaps, if you're looking about targeting Keen. And there it is, the GP comes through.
But look to a Zac pick if Score wants to lose a bit of lane presence and just go for the Zac and power farm up. But Zac and Gragas are the big junglers I'm thinking of when I look onto the blue side. On the red side, we're looking for solo laners for the side of Afreeca Freecs, a safe choice for mid or bot lane. Now notice there is one safe choice removed. Is they're hovering.
Really?
They're doing it. Kuro's going on to potentially the Yasuo or Keen. All right, we're getting Yasuo. This is something that Faker has been practicing. A lot of people have been practicing, and a straight up Yasuo.
The Yasuo, unbelievable. It's so good. Into the Taliyah, but also Conqueror comes in. Another fantastic rune for Yasuo. It gains so much power. They bring it out, the second trump card here for Afreeca.
Really good against the explosive cask is the win wall as well from the Yasuo. So we're getting a lot of value out of this effectively Yasuo pick that could be top or mid lane. It's a flex pick Yasuo. Very interesting. KT are going to definitely be surprised to see this from the side of Afreeca. They're going to go for some pretty safe choices. looking for a top laner, may just return to the Shen they did not get any value out of in game number 3.
You mentioned that flex pick could certainly go up against the Shen, but I love it against the Taliyah. It just makes a fool of that Taliyah if you're looking to win the lane.
They're looking to win all the lanes, Valdez. They're going for 3 winning lanes in a couple of different ways. What will they eventually settle on? They could have gone super lane focused and gone for the Fiora. They'll rein it in a little bit. They seem to be happy with the Orin. So Orin versus Shen, a true tank matchup where Orin will have the pushing power before Titanic Hydra is complete. But Yasuo mid lane is brought back by Kuro. It's a different way to approach the Taliyah. There was no Cassiopeia ban. That's a big pick in other regions. We just get a Yasuo, and we get Kuro looking to flex and also pick up an MVP in the postseason. Look at the coaches here saying...
a massage there in the booth right before the games start.
You've got 3 coaches saying, well, you wanted it, you got it, and we got some Yasuo in the LCK playoffs.
Receiving a bit of a beating before the games start here, saying, don't receive that same beating in the game. And we already see so much Conqueror Yasuo in solo queue. After this game, if it finds success, we might see it every game.
Could be press the attack also. I think Conqueror, because you might be side laning against a Shen at some points, could be smart. I think Conqueror is more likely, but press the attack is what we saw from FLICKR and other people in solo queues. So it's situational, which rune we see. But man, the win wall can also get massive value. And you as our resident Taliyah expert on this 2-man cast know that hitting a skill shot onto a Yasuo is very frustrating. Now, early game, Score can also set up a tent mid lane, and you can also make the Yasuo chain feed. That is also an eventuality when it's Yasuo in the game.
There's so much outplay potential, too. You mentioned how it's good against the explosive cask as well. You could try to go 1v2 at times. Mowgli shows up a little bit later, maybe even a roam from Keen. The Orin certainly helps out from a separate lane. Either way, guys, a really exciting game. Number 4 draft should make an exciting game. Let's jump into it right away. Here we go, guys. If you're joining us late, that is definitely the Conquer Yasuo in the mid lane. Decides against the press the attack. Takes the ignite. The recent buffs as well make this just even more obnoxious. And
look at this,
annoying.
A bit of extra zoom here for the style choice in the Yasuo mid lane.
So good.
Kuro's has played 6 games of Yasuo, 5-1. It's actually one of the picks that has worked well for him. Kuro has been always a player that picks up stuff really fast, but clearly we know after the first or second game, is it a Kuro champion or is it not? And Yasuo was one of those many moons ago. I remember watching the 1,000 kill video that OGN made about Kuro to celebrate 1,000 kills, and he made it very clear that his Yasuo was something he felt was forgotten, but something that he could bring back at any moment. We see the return of the Yasuo. Kuro, when it comes to players to prepare for, we've watched his solo queue, and actually, he's very heavily hiding his picks. He doesn't play on his main. Even other accounts that are rumored to be Kuro, he's not playing a lot on. So knowing what he's playing at any time is difficult, and in a clutch game, in a game where if they win, they go to the final, he brings out the Yasuo.
He had his pick of the litter, too. KT taking a little risk before this, picking the Taliyah into Kuro's LeBlanc even. That was open. It wasn't banned this time around for the first time in this series, but instead he decides to bring out this pick. It means a lot. You talked about hiding picks. He must have 20, 30 plus games on this to actually get the go-ahead to play this.
And let's see what happens bot lane, because we saw level 1 going into the Tormented Soil as Kuro takes a couple of bad trains on the back end. We could just see W Max Morgana. It's something that we saw BBQ run with Ghost and Ignite, just push with the Caitlyn Morgana and actually maxing Tormented Soil and not just into the Dark Binding like you would expect. So we'll see if that is just the plan. You have so little engage possibility because of the Black Shield when you're a Rakan. This should be a much more comfortable laning phase for Kramer on the Caitlyn, and Kramer hasn't been one of our better Caitlyn players. Afreeca have actually struggled on the pick.
Mata being so aggressive on the Rakan on the bottom side, finally gets hit by the Morgana Q. And we're having an early roam down here from Score, getting the call from Mata, no doubt. There's no ward in this brush just yet. Wants to set this up.
Not spotted, of course. Ah, good lord.
Boy.
Very smart from Tucson.
The timing on that one.
The only aggressive vision they had was the Raptor cam, but they had enough information from there. There was actually no forward vision at all from Afreeca, so very nicely intuited. Not going to be any lane gank, going to be successful. Yasuo backs away. Hey, he's up in CS, even if he's taken some bad trades in the mid lane. He'll keep pushing through, and here are your Yasuo runes. In case you wanted at home, Chrysalis is taken in the Resolve tree and the bone plating on patch 8.6. Presence of mind, okay. That's, are we sure about this?
That's actually a graphical issue.
Yes, it is actually a graphical issue.
Not a fourth secondary rune taken there, unfortunately.
All right. All right.
Or I should say, fortunately. You definitely want the Conqueror instead of that one. It's so uncommon that they don't even have it, so they just use a different
Conqueror is new,
graphic.
it's true. We're beta testing here. Sorry, guys. Spo TV sometimes.
Yeah, rune issue, I suppose.
Monopoles.
Yeah. It's a quick one. Smeb gets away from the gank. Mowgli a little bit far ahead on score, as score was, of course, going for a little bit of a cheeky early gank in the bottom side.
Such a different approach here from Kuro, who went the Karma, which was a utility pick for the Kai'Sa, but also stopped the Rones coming through him. And look at this. He didn't go Presence of Mind. Amazing. Very standard aggressive rune page here from Kuro, largely for killing squishies. We'd love to kill a mid laner. If we're looking for knock-up synergy, the Q from Mowgli, that's going to be there. Of course, Keen has an AoE knock-up as well, and those are the big knock-up synergies that Afreeca are able to send through.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about different picks for Keen in the top side, and certainly the Ornn helps facilitate the Yasuo overall, more so than a Vlad, who doesn't have a knock-up.
And it's another pick that he hasn't played much. It's only one game in the regular season on Ornn. No surprise that Keen can play the Ornn. But this series started off with him looking like the inferior Smeb when it came to the ability to play those skill matchups. He's turned it on the last two games, being a lot more stable. And Ornn is the epitome of stability in topside. That was an unintentional rhyme. But it is something that you can pick and should be very, very competitive. No solo kills expected for Smeb in this matchup.
Going to be pretty even up on the top side. And both of these junglers have been hanging around the bottom side. Certainly the pick potential with Caitlyn Morgana makes it very enticing to try to go for a gank when you also have all that CC on Sejuani. If you catch anyone, you should be able to CC them to death.
Already the laning phase looking a lot better for Afreeca on this Caitlyn. A lot of our top teams have really struggled to wield the Caitlyn in the sort of fashion that justifies the first pick status we see for Caitlyn in the EU LCS and other regions around the world. Sin Bang, for example, just kind of lose lane on the Caitlyn. Kramer and Ruler have both lost lane on the Caitlyn. Usually it's about smart bot side macro where you walk up, you win the 2v2, and you take those pot shots on the turret, doing your best impression of Uzi in full flight, trying to, at all moments, both punish the laners and the turret as the Caitlyn, and so far so good. Don't have the confirmation on what Tucson is maxing, but very much could be the tormented soil for the push.
We've seen Tucson pop off on Rakan. We've seen him do it on Alistair, even Braum at times, but don't really have too many highlight plays of his Morgana. I'm curious to see how he can reinvent this champion before our very eyes. No doubt that he can do it.
No Gragas buffs on patch 8.6 and 8.7. Those AP buffs are gone in, which might actually see a bit of Runic Echo Gragas come back. Still probably going to be full tank from there, but this one's going to be Cinderhulk, and it's just Gragas for the cask largely, and the engage potential. We mentioned the gank potential on Yasuo early, and honestly at all stages of mid lane. He's a very gankable champion. That hasn't happened so far this game, and Kuro going blow for blow with the Talia. It's pretty happy times for Afreeca.
Yeah. Mention how the Yasuo is good into the Talia. Certainly okay. Def going to be locked up here. That's kind of a max range too. Going to eat that. Pretty unfortunate. He was looking very, very frustrated in the booth after game number 3. Of course, getting caught by Tucson's fantastic engage. We'll see if he can kind of pop back into his, get his mental back into his head.
And it's definitely something we have to share with the viewers. It wasn't caught on camera, but like you say, looked very despondent during the games. He stayed in the booth, was getting a couple of words from the coaches. That is, what you expect with Deft. He's always been a very emotional player. But definitely needs to keep that in check as we are now backs against the wall for KT Rolster.
Taking another look at the Yasuo. Early game should go over to the Talia with her pushing power and her poke power, but you can already see the Seeker's arm guard coming onto Yukal. Definitely necessary. You do not want to be all in against that Yasuo. You need that extra armor just to stay alive. Especially as the game goes on, the Yasuo builds up some items.
A lot of outplay potential with the champions he's facing for this Yasuo as well. So the Yasuo that could rip through a team fight later on. Obviously, very, very strong at dodging skill shots because of his kit. Game pace has been slowed down. No turret yet claimed by Afreeca, but a lot of returns to bot side is what we expect. It's going to be the Q-Max, so very much going for the picks here. Trying to land those Dark Bindings rather than the Tormented Soil Max I was referencing that we saw from Ignar on BBQ.
Bit of a mix-up here. Looking to lock them down as much as possible to help out the Caitlyn and all that good stuff. Score now on a ward means that Afreeca is going to back off here and going to be safe against any ganks.
Does feel like KT, once again, are trying to play around timings. They have a much better roaming team. They still have Stand United and the Weaver's Wall from the mid side. You need to be picking up those Drakes. Not going to be as early as with an Olaf. They start this one off. Let's see how much we see is instant engage.
Bada looking to get on top of Mowgli, but he gets away. So much use to try to get that kill. And now KT, they're all alone in the pit here. No way to get on in there. Not going to dive in just yet is Kuro, keeping his calm. So many knockouts, but no kill just yet. Bada finally does go down. Nice auto there from Kramer to take him down. The smite fight going to come in. Is going to go over to score here, but so many low members of KT. There it is. That's the double kill onto him, and now Yukal goes down. Make it 4 as an ace comes down against KT, and Kuro gets 2 kills on the Yasuo. An insta sweep, and Afreeca run away with it.
And there's the big smiles. The last breath rips through the team of KT. They're going to be able to push up mid. It's a 3-kill Yasuo, and that's that sinking feeling if you're a KT fan.
Unbelievable the way that goes. They tried to engage onto Mowgli. They burned so much. The Weaver's Wall, the engaged flash from Mata, and then they're stuck, and they knew it was coming. There was no way to get away.
You always have to remember the last breath. When we watched the start of the fight, you get out because you still have summoners up, and then Deft is caught in no man's land, has to flash. The fight goes on, and KT, yes, they are able to pick up the Drake, but notice the win wall after the Drake is claimed, and that there's no more escape plans available for KT. They know that this is going to be the Rumble Pit. They know they have to fight, but wait for the knock-up coming through here. It's his own last breath. He facilitates it with the Q and completely dumpsters KT. Massive fight, and all off the back of Kuro's Yasuo.
There was no way to get away. Everybody had blown their flash by that time. There was no way to get out of the pit. They were just lined up perfectly for the Yasuo, who waited for the perfect moment. He still didn't have many items. Waited just until the end of the fight. It truly was the last breath of that Yasuo.
And it's the most obvious metaphor ever. But his swords are daggers through the heart of KT. We saw Deft despondent between the games. They needed a confident early game. They haven't been known as a comeback team. Better in spring 2018, but definitely not their usual style. Come from behind is not in the KT playbook, and Afreeca are already well ahead.
Running away with this one. They get that first blood turret in the bottom side. Sure, KT will trade it back here, but already the Rift Herald and another turret in the top side. When you get aced at 10 minutes, guys, you basically lose. It's hard to come back from it, especially with a 3-0-1 Yasuo. This feels like every Platinum solo queue game I've ever played against a Yasuo that gets ahead. It's going to be so incredibly hard for them. And Afreeca, and Kuro specifically, should be very happy at this moment in time.
And I just love how it also answered the Gragas in many ways, because getting explosive cask value against the Yasuo is really difficult. We did not see any mid lane focus. The team fight went in the absolute best way possible. Definitely a progress moment for the side of Kuro. But now he's got 2 items. He's got a Phantom Dancer, snowballed from the start compared to Yukal's nothing. Dark Binding hits, and Mata could just have died.
Now, it was getting very low. Thankfully, had the help of his friends in the river. But now, speaking of friends, Smeb doesn't have very many. They're going to save their stun.
And it's time for a Rocks Tigers battle.
Yeah.
Kuro versus Smeb. I think Kuro's going to win.
Well, he's got a friend here. It's not necessarily fair. Speaking of friends, there's another one coming up as Tucson was making his way. Didn't need it. Just going to give a 4th kill to the Yasuo in the mid lane.
Oh, boy. KT have got to completely throw out their early plan. They have no ability to control the map. And, you know, when Yasuo is this far ahead, maybe that means the game's already very, very unlikely to be won for KT. It's not impossible. Yasuo is a champion who is unreliable in fights. But if they construct fights as well as they have in the last 2 games of this series, Afreeca Freecs are going to Busan. Afreeca Freecs are winning their first ever best of 5. This team has never been able to get this far out. It's because they always make the wildcard match, the best of 3, and they always lose 2-0. They are now 2-1 up. They've won a best of 3, even though they're not in one, shooting for that best of 5 victory and their first ever final as a League of Legends organization.
We take a step back. 5,000 gold ahead now is Afreeca. They have a very fed carry champion in the mid lane. Yukal on the Talia, which we praised him for so much, doesn't have much here.
Hits again.
Doesn't have even a single item. Already a completed Phantom Dancer and a BF sword onto Kuro. They wanted to make a play up in the top side. Even that doesn't work, as it looks like it's going to be Afreeca that are continuously making plays, trying to now push down the mid lane turret.
The item lead here on the carries is so large. Look at mid lane and AD carry. Essence Reaver into most of an IE and Static Shiv. The mid laner, we don't even talk about that. It's disgusting. Not rated for this particular stream. And top lane.
Oh no, he got caught on a trap. Is it going to matter in the end? It doesn't look like it. The TP comes in.
Wait for Yasuo, he's still coming.
Def going to be stunned up once again, getting incredibly low. Here comes Mowgli from the backside. The ultimate is going to miss, but trying to come in. And finally they do get him. Here's Kuro. And I don't know what to say. KT in a ton of trouble here, trying to go for the desperate play. But now you're going to get knocked up. There's another kill. A double for this Kuro onto Yasuo. It's now 9-1, and they want even more kills as they're on the chase for Mata. Looks like he should get away, but they're going for desperation. It's not working out, Papa.
It definitely is early desperation after that ace. This is KT, unfortunately, being as KT as possible. The desperation unnecessary. Kuro, so damn strong. Can have Infinity Edge on his next back, you'd imagine. Shelly finds a bit of extra time for another dive in at 200 HP. Doesn't do any real damage. Kuro backs away, but KT just say, well, let's kill some heroes. A short from Mata. This wasn't death. This started with Mata. Face planting, Sideshow Bob style, onto a trap. And even though we did not have the Yasuo and Sejuani there from the start, KT, with that desperation, are so far out of position. The ult misses from Mowgli, but the moment that Kuro hits the fight, you know it's all over.
Yeah. Just clean up as much as possible. They get 2 more kills on the backside to make it 3. It's just clean up from there, as you mentioned. Infernal Drake to add insult to injury was the second one for Afreeca. Kuro doesn't seem to care at this point in time. Does have the red buff. He's going in. Is going to miss. His turn to fall flat on his face, as perhaps getting a little bit overconfident in this one.
Just Yasuo things in this particular game. Amusing stuff there. Kuro tried to outplay the cask. He wasn't even up for score. He didn't need to use it. They got the kill. Okay. Take a deep breath here. KT say, okay, we got the kill. And I think a lot of what they were doing topside was confidence boosting. It's let's just 4v2 kill some people and feel good about ourselves after losing the ace so early in the game. That's a free pick. That's also a very big bounty going to the side of KT. Doesn't necessarily change the state of the game, but it is a confidence booster for KT, who looked woefully low on confidence in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah. They give that extra gold over to Yukal as well, who finally picks up his Archangel staff here alongside the Seekers. So can finally begin to crawl his way back into some semblance of some items in this game. A resident Yasuo building towards an Infinity Edge, of course.
1,500 gold ahead of his opponent, despite being 7 CS down. That's what 6 kills will do for you in the early game. Anytime Yasuo is ahead in gold, the pain can really come, and it's all about 7 to 10 minutes. A straight-up Phantom Dancer from 4 kills and a bit of farm. Over the 4-minute passage between 6 and 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Yukal's been doing his best. Notice the tier came at 15 minutes, so the Archangel Shield, which was nerfed on 8.6, is going to be later into the game, less relevant to be calculated in.
Yukal and score I mean, this is what you got to do when you're this far behind, but it's double control war, trying to gank a Yasuo. But perfect read out of Afreeca, out of Kuro and Mowgli, the mid laner in jungle. They're going to find
Kuro's
him
going to face check anyway. He's Yasuo.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for him. Trying to turn it around, but with the Shen coming in as well, no way to get on there. And it looks like KT, this is actually going to work out for them. It's now Mowgli with nowhere to go. Smeb just blocking the Arctic Assault, and that's going to be 2 kills to the side of KT.
I like how KT approaching this. They're doing the keep it simple, stupid method, the KISS method of saying, let's just get some picks. Yasuo is going to want to hit a side lane. He's super strong. Let's find him and take him down. And so far, that is definitely the sort of thing. We've all played games, maybe not at the highest level. We've all played games and know how much confidence boosting those 2 kills onto the Yasuo will be. Get the kills, reset. It's not going to arrest the gold lead. It's still massive, but it is going to arrest some of the mentalities. And it's good to see KT still fighting and not just rolling all in and rolling over.
It's going to keep Kuro honest, too. When you're 6-0, you feel like you rule the rift. But when you're 6-2, you got caught with your pants down twice. Are you going to push up as aggressively in the side lane? Not really. You have to respect that, even if you are still so far ahead. So it's a good way to also cut down that carry that is super far ahead.
So let's turn it over to Afreeca. What do you do now after you feel your mid laner go down twice? His flash is going to be up soon. Yeah, okay, we've got some sick items. The Infinity Edges are there for both of them. I think actually allowing Kuro to play on the strong side for a bit, where they have a bit of vision control be put down by Tucson and the rest of the team, would be behooved, so he doesn't just face check and die. Yasuo is all about pressure. It's one of the reasons why, if you have a top lane Yasuo, you've all felt that feeling of, well, he's died 5 times, but at least he's pushing. At least he's affecting the map. If your Yasuo is getting pushed in and died 5 times, sorry guys, you're losing your LP for that one. But it's all about creating pressure with the Yasuo, and then the team fighting as the game goes on. And now he's away from all the control wards that KT have set up in the bottom side.
And still playing it very slow. He's not pushing it in very fast. He's just trying to farm up here. Doesn't want to go too far down the river. As I said before, you got to play it safe when you know the entire enemy team is out to get you.
Look at this Yasuo holding the wave. First Yasuo in the history of competitive League of Legends. Or solo queue. Look at this. He's last hitting as Yasuo. This is rarely seen footage. We should definitely have clipped that.
Yeah, get a highlight reel of that one. So that's all the Yasuo players.
That was the most unlikely thing we'd see today, Valdez.
Let's be real. No Yasuo player can watch a video that's over 5 seconds long. So nobody's going to watch it anyway.
They can only see the pentakill montages instantly with last breath.
Yeah. Well, as we said before, he's still sitting on 2 huge items, right? The Infinity Edge. We mentioned him. We mentioned the Caitlyn, too, who also has her own Infinity Edge. About a half item ahead of Xayah now in this one. And it's going to be Afreeca's turn to make some plays around the Baron. They can certainly put some nice vision down. They're so far ahead, still 5,000 gold at 21 minutes.
But they haven't grown what was a game-winning gold leads. When you saw those 4 kills, you even said basically like, yeah, teams probably don't come back from an ace that early in the game. Those 2 picks mean the gold lead has never grown. It's going to take another proactive play. Weaver's Wall will check this very early. They back away. Afreeca had the sort of gold lead where if those 2 kills didn't come through and they just played logical League of Legends, they win 95% of the time. Suddenly, they've had their lead corralled. It's never grown. And while KT aren't back in the game, they're not out of the game. And that was the most likely outcome of those early kills, especially with KT being a very emotional team.
Yeah. I love the next item coming through for Kuro. We'll see if he finishes it right away, but GA next is certainly a good item for a Yasuo that's ahead. All the really good Yasuos in solo queue do this as well, where you don't really need more damage, you just need more survivability.
Again, after an early ace, the gold lead has gone lower. It's gone towards KT Rolster. It's gone from just over 6,500 gold back to 5,000. That is a massive win when it comes to arresting momentum by KT. Really good to see. And it means the champions who, before that gold lead, had literally no items, now have some items. And you get another couple of fortunate picks, this game could really be back in the balance.
Certainly, especially with the Drake RNG. The second one was Infernal. Fantastic if you've got a Yasuo Caitlyn on your side. Third one, Ocean Drake, certainly the worst here for Afreeca. So they're just going to clear it up as fast as possible. Hope for better RNG for number 4. It's going to be an Infernal, so nicely done for them. Rolling the dice very well tonight.
Gambling illegal in Korea, but you always get your gamble on when you take away one of those ocean drakes and hope something better will emerge. Looking at the gold lead, again, no monstrous lead. The Yasuo is not 3,000 gold ahead of his opponents, only about 1,000 gold ahead. Things are getting more to normalcy. KT have very impressively got back into this game with very low-risk plays. They've gone low-risk, medium reward as a team that's known for high-risk, high-reward basically every time. A whole year of playing no tank comps in 2017 meant they were not able to actually close any of the big ones they would have had on the checklist. They're keeping it together. Kuro hits the side lane again. Doesn't have too much coverage, and they're going all in.
Oh boy, see you later, Yasuo. Somebody report this guy. We'll see if Kuro can get out of it, though. Trying to go 1v4, can't quite do it. And another fantastic setup out of KT. They're trying to make the impossible possible tonight.
They just keep outnumbering around the Yasuo, and this might be Baron to KT. They're certainly going to go try to control the pit. This has been expert stuff at shutting down the Yasuo. Weaver's Wall.
Oh boy, now let's see if Kramer can headshot some people to death. He is going to flash. One more would have done it onto you, Cal, but he's too low now, and he can't really help. Deft runs into a trap, unfortunately has to blow Featherstorm. And okay, KT, they're getting aggressive. They're feeling the waves now, the confidence after 3 kills on the Yasuo, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
It's so amazing, but somehow KT's disappointment instead of their usual excitement in the early game have really squared them up. They're playing much more standard stuff. They get the pick, and then we start face-checking Caitlyn's, and now he might just die.
No Featherstorm, so close to going down there. Unbelievable. Death, though, going to get extremely low, means that, again, with no Featherstorm, he cannot stay here.
Turret easily picked up. They still have the trap line around the Baron. KT were far too willing to face check onto a Caitlyn that had free farm. Has 3 items, and they were walking into her damage. Definitely stay away from the face checking is all I will say. He is, he's been guilty of that too many times in his career. So back away, still overall a good move from KT. Again, the gold lead will never grow past the 5,000 to 6,000 it has been sticking at for the majority of the game. And now we need to see, can Afreeca calm down and actually play around their Yasuo rather than just leaving him to the wolves, sending him to the bot side. At least you could say, well, maybe they'll try and outnumber him bot side and we can rush a Baron. They need to be on the ball to go over Baron if Yasuo is bot side. And if they play top side, they need to be more on the ball in vision control to open up the Yasuo. There's 2 different approaches here from Afreeca. If you do neither, you continue to squander the lead the Yasuo has grown.
Yeah, he's going to be sitting there. That Ignite getting less and less useful as the game goes on, but we'll see if he can actually make plays now that he has his Guardian Angel, and hopefully doesn't get picked off for a 4th time in this game. That would be a hilarious way to go into game number 5, but we'll see if he can get there. He's beginning to settle down. Kramer's getting some unbelievable items and headshots now. The crits are going to be off the chain. Let's see if Afreeca can try not to throw this one. They are still 6,000 gold ahead. We'll see what they can do.
Oh, deep breaths. This game seemed to be over early. It's not. Weaver's Wall just to separate threats, but it's going to be shorted by the Wind Wall. Remember, Wind Wall and also the Unbreakable from Braum are the famous things to interrupt something like the Weaver's Wall. They have that tool available, and getting close to level 18 will be a shorter cooldown on the Wind Wall. Smeb goes for the split push. No teleport on Keen. Afreeca have to start the Baron.
Yep. They do
KT are being real slow.
Damage. Okay, there you go. Should be going down. Mana's going to be the only one to get close, but they're just going to give it away. KT decides to take it slow, but here's Ornn. That Ornn pick is going to be, okay, everybody dodges it there on the backside. And there you go. So the Baron is going to go down to Afreeca. Smeb doing a good job on the bottom side is going to take out that turret at least.
You'd have to hope that KT had given up the Baron, because if not, their check was very, very slow with all the damage that Afreeca have already been able to pile on. You don't normally think about mid lane Yasuo, but damn does he do a lot of damage to neutrals, and can also use the Wind Wall to decrease damage from the Baron as it cannot actually attack through it.
Look at this.
Now we're going Gank Brush.
They're throwing macro to the wind.
I don't think they have the damage to kill him, and they need to kill him twice.
Okay,
always learning.
Good read by Kuro. He's like, I cannot push more than 1 wave.
There was 4 of them there as well. That was
just
definitely
got a brain in this game, I suppose.
I love the camera angle there. Very dramatic camera angle. We're trying to do a action movie right here. Khan backs away. No harm, no foul. Okay, deep breaths again. Afreeca have the Baron. They also have a pretty oppressive siege, mostly from the zoning of the Ornn ultimate into Caitlyn and her whole kit. Wind wall is good for some disengage as well. See where Yasuo is positioned. Could actually be positioned just to stop the wind wall. That's one way you can approach the fights. Caitlyn walks up. Goodbye in a turret.
That Ornn pick just seems to be smarter and smarter the more I look at it. You got two people that are going to pick up the Infinity Edge. Two ways to upgrade as well with the Ornn. Kramer now pushing in. Talked about that siege. The Caitlyn famously good for it, but Ornn also helping out. And they'll just continue pushing in. Still 2 minutes on the Baron. Decent amount of wave clear from the side of KT, but see if they can actually fully stop the push here.
Feels like it'll be a story of two walls, the wind wall and the weaver's wall. I think one of them will answer this particular play around the siege. Yukal on the sidelines looking for a weaver's wall. Let's see if it's just blocked. It is. Nicely done. So easy answer, much shorter cooldown. Very nicely used. That was his use. He stood back and said, you will not use the weaver's wall behind us to force a fight. That means he had the interruption. Nothing to interrupt this.
Yep, another type of wall comes in to call the Forge God this time around. It's going to wall them off from defending that inhibitor. So with those two plays to just zone them out, they get one inhibitor. Will the push continue for Afreeca with a minute left? It looks like the answer will be no for now. They'll be happy with one inhibitor on the top side. They'll back off, pick up some items, and move towards the Infernal.
A sentence I did not think I would say today is that the wind wall has been the trump card to the weaver's wall. Think about that statement there. But it is the superior wall in this particular game, much shorter cooldown. Double control ward. This is Afreeca Freecs. Triple control ward and the Yasuo peeling with the wind wall. That is what we saw in the siege. Beautifully done by the side of the Afreeca Freecs. And again, you always have the recency bias of watching KT win and be like, man, they smashed SKT. But remember that SKT were a tier behind. You're right in that statement. But SKT were a tier behind. They were 13 game score behind where KT was. They were expected to lose. It was all about the history. History didn't matter. In this series, Afreeca have never won a playoff series. Again, talking about history, it's a different lineup. It's a different time. And their coaching staff is really, really smart. So their preparation, which we did not see in game one, which we did not, as you mentioned, see in that 2-0, including a perfect game, is being seen here.
Super clean, Afreeca. They're trying to prove tonight not only that they can defeat, well, headshot to the face here onto Death.
Death might die.
Featherstorm just to get away from it. Should be another inhibitor. But again, Afreeca, they're trying to prove they can defeat KT, but they also are trying to prove that they can go head-to-head with Kingzone. You talked about tiers. It was Afreeca and KT in the second tier with Kingzone all alone at the top. It didn't really look like there was any big rival, but Afreeca are slowly becoming that team to be the challenger.
And they're boxing with shadows because they also have their own demons. Like we said, 4 playoffs, no game victories, a history that counted against them. They are able to quell those and make the final. If they can be this prepared in 6 days' time, they will force a series out of Kingzone. Beating them, that's difficult, but forcing a series, they seem like they're good enough.
KT once again trying to be a little bit cheesy. They're sending Mata behind, and they want to get into the back line. If they can get a big knock-up onto Kramer when Tucson isn't looking for the Black Shield, certainly that would be one way to try to come ahead in this fight.
Black Shield, wind wall, Kuro's a second support. He might as well be Karma at this point when it comes to sieging. I know that sounds amusing, but that's all he has to do is wind wall, and Kramer does all the work. Kuro's not going to get any autos onto this turret unless the fighting is over. So he's going to walk there to supports, the good old support Yasuo and the support Morgana. They can't quite break through the mid lane inhibitor, but the next Baron spawns in 2 minutes.
You can tell that Smev is trying to do his best to bring his team into the finals. He's taunting his way through traps, sending down the dodge circle, just trying to make sure this siege has as little power as possible. Doing a good job of it now that the Baron buff is down, but here's the Ornn ultimate. Are you going to stand up to it? Finally, the Featherstorm comes in. An immediate engage. The Shen shield is going to come in and save his life, but everything to zone everybody away. But there's the engage. The Black Shield is on point, and Kramer snipes him in the face. There's way too much room for him to do the damage, but now the frontline Death finally able to trade back a little bit as Mowgli does go too deep, but in the end of it all, a kill for a kill, and the inhibitor going down.
And they're not going to go back at all. They're not stopping. Kramer wants to keep pushing. They want some Nexus turrets if they can get them. The end is difficult to pick up, but they know Featherstorm's down.
Yeah, Dev's trying to be the hero. He wants to make up for the mistakes made in the past in this series. Was able to do it, was able to kill Mowgli here. He brings the game into a longer session. It's going to be a hard one. They're down 3 inhibitors and 2 Infernal Drakes, 10,000 gold to Afreeca. We'll see if they can make the impossible happen tonight.
And the Afreeca Freecs, with this performance, whatever happens with the final result, even if they go on to lose, are the best team nobody's talking about. The best team that nobody knows about, because when it comes to big teams from Korea, people know SKT, they know KT, they know the Rocks Tigers, and they know the big names. The only big name on Afreeca is Kuro, and he is the guy that was remembered as the 5th best Rocks Tiger in 2016. His development over the year in 2017 into 2018 has been massive. They have other stars, Tucson, the best support next to Mata this season. Afreeca keep leveling up, and now people are going to have to really remember them.
Mata coming from behind. He wants to be the hero. No Black Shield this time, and they just turn it around. There's Kuro, going to be able to do the damage. Kramer totally safe in the back line doing that. Kuro getting low, but he's got TA. King going a little bit deep here.
He's alone.
On the left side, Depth is still alive, and he's got some room. Will the Ornn go down? He finally does.
Ucal's down.
They get onto Kramer. He's low, but it's not enough. The super minions are going to do it. There's the ace. Afreeca are going to be your winners. They are going to the finals after the quadra kill that Kramer picks up. They take it in the 3-1 victory. Congratulations to Afreeca. They bring out the Yasuo, and the team play, it makes it work. There you go. Game is over. They're going to the finals.
And what better way for our macro gods to win than the Winions decide the game after they've won the team fight. Kuro embraces his team. Not even Spirit there. Tears in the eyes of their coaching staff. Afreeca Freecs, the deserving winner over KT Rolster. Their first ever best of 5. Their first victory. Their first final as an organization. And the best team no one's talking about. It's time to start shouting, Valdez, because they're in the grand final.
Thank you very much, Dash. I've got to agree with you and everybody except for Jat on the desk. I'm looking for 5 games. I want to see this one go the distance, boys.
Yeah, I always love me some Silver Scrapes, especially at the live events.
Oh, especially if the games are close. Like, we had that semi-final that went 5, where it was back and forth. That one was a nail-biter. 100 Thieves able to pull it out, but now up against TL. We'll see here, but I am so excited. Picks and bans already underway.
Picks and bans starting out with targeting the supports. Such big players for both of their teams. Ole, just last year, first team all NALCS support, and this year, Afremu getting the MVP. Definitely going to change the way these team comps lay out.
And when we're looking at these bans here, we're seeing some kind of standard here. The GP, even though it's not that important for both these top laners, they don't play it that often. They favor the tanks. It affects the bottom lane. And like the desk was saying, the bottom lane is where we're expecting a lot of action.
There's a ton of focus on these bottom lanes. Both carries have done so much of the heavy lifting for their teams throughout this split. It's no surprise to see them concerned about something that might be able to tip those scales.
All right, Team Liquid throw double bans at the jungle. They follow the Trundle up with the Olaf to push down to the Sejuani's exact sort of tier that we're going to see from them, and they'll probably be picked up in the first tier of bans.
If you're going for Skarner, that's what I would expect, because that's in that S+ tier still. But then, since there's 3 junglers up, you don't really have to rush it here. But if they go for that, it's like they were saying on the desk, priority for Meteos. Farmer clear, or faster farm clear is a little bit better for him.
Meteos also, just as a player, specifically loves playing Skarner. He's talked about so many different aspects with this champion. He loves clearing the Raptors, as well as getting in for those Predator ganks.
A man after my own heart. Skarner picks something that I'll never criticize a team for going after 100 Thieves, locking that one in first. Like you said, it appeals to Meteos' playstyle, sets him up to be successful, and he's also been a critical part for 100 Thieves, especially in recent games, getting them where they need to be for these victories.
Meanwhile, on the other side, though, they did have to give up to Team Liquid the Caitlyn pick that we've been talking about so much, being a very high priority in both of these team strategies, especially since if you're going to pick one of those other level 6 crowd control AD carries, they're going to have to make something happen and divert the Caitlyn scaling.
Exactly, and the thing that's absent here for me that's been in almost every other pick ban, Xayah, Rakan, at least a ban coming through, because it's a very powerful bottom lane. And if 100 Thieves, I would expect them to go for something along those lines here, but it looks like they don't want to have mid lane banned out with a priority for TL.
Yeah, and if you don't go for it in the double pick here, then you don't want to get half of the duo. So it looks like that one probably will pass through the fingers here. Raya's very high priority, though. We saw in Team Liquid series as well, Pobelter utilizing that champion very well, roaming around, and it is a huge pick for Ryu, one of his most played.
Yeah, exactly. It is his most played champion. He loves to play to the side lanes with the Taliyah, the Ryze, and Ryze goes up even further because they ban the Cassiopeia themselves.
100 Thieves will also get themselves the Tristana here. You're going up against something that can carry in the late game like the Caitlyn. You're answering with something that can do the same with the Tristana. If you watched EU earlier today, you got to see exactly what Tristana is capable of, and the Thieves would like to reproduce that here now.
All right, maybe we'll see some Reckless-S play here from Cody Sun. Early on, her range was nerfed, and it does offer a little bit more effort from him. We'll have to see, though. Pobelter not locking in the Azir means that there is huge backline reliability for Team Liquid in the late game. And this is what we've seen from them in their game plan. Standard front line, very high priority on the backline DPS.
And we talked about how Ryze is the most played mid lane champion over here for Ryu. Tied for most played champion for Pobelter is Azir, so he's plenty experienced on this. It's going to be a good matchup in the mid lane.
Yeah, and when we look at these teams playing towards the bottom side, you think of the Galio, Taliyah, the Ryze that can roam. The Azir is the one where that mid laner becomes very self-sufficient. They can take care of themselves. They can dodge ganks easily with the mobility, but you can even play around that mid lane here. And with the Sejuani alongside it, that means that Ryu may have to take cleanse very early on in this matchup, because that combination becomes one where you can constantly kill the enemy mid laner with that engage range that's available to the two.
All right, going into the second part of the draft now, it's top and support that's yet to be picked for both sides here, so expect that to obviously be where the bans are going to go. We already talked about seeing some support bans, some targeting towards that Tahm Kench from Thieves. They'll also take Morgana off the table while Liquid gets rid of Cho'Gath and Thresh.
Yeah, and we've talked so much about the bottom lane that the top lane kind of has not shown up here, and yet the tanks have been incredibly important. The Ornn as well as Cho'Gath for someday. It looks like they may be willing to just trade those, as the Cho'Gath is the only ban there from Team Liquid, so Ornn rises in priority as one of the most popular top lane tanks, especially for that team fighting.
Yeah.
But Braum is kind of the cutoff.
That's pretty big. Exactly. The Braum would stop 100 Thieves from wanting to pick that. Braum is also Afreeca's most played champion. He's got 10 games on that. His next highest is Alistar with just 3. So he has jumped around, but it's mostly about protecting Cody.
Yeah, and while the Braum Unbreakable can stop the Ornn ultimate, we've still seen so many teams be willing to pick the Ornn into it anyway, so it may very well just be the case. Insta lock there. Your question has been answered.
Instant prediction, instant correct prediction. There you go. Kobe's able to call him. Easy peasy, 1, 2, 3 to lock that one in on the side of 100 Thieves. And now we'll see what they decide to do in the support role. We talked about how that Braum was a big denial. So what do you go for instead? Afreeca still has plenty of tricks up his sleeve. Bard is one of those signature champions we get to see from him, but the Alistar, that second most played pick, that's the one they're going to lock in for game 1.
And this is a very forward-facing, offensive-looking 100 Thieves lineup here. They have tons of hard engage to play with. They also have the mid laner that has the possibility of going side lanes very early on, and the Tristana is an all-in AD carry that can look for those kills.
Yeah, great scaling as well. So playing for that late game, the 100 Thieves kind of MO that they've been operating with. And the Singe there for impact. He played this earlier up against Cloud9.
Now we're seeing why. Just the Cho'Gath ban there, trying to attack some days. Very, very prevalent in their last series. And Impact, once again, pulls out the Singed. He's put more practice in it, you would want to assume, than last time. He had the interview after that first game. He pulls out Singed. He's like, yeah, it's been a while, but, you know, it was a good counter pick.
Well, the team obviously has the faith in him to allow him to say, okay, let's go for this. Let's greenlight the Singe pick. We believe that he'll be able to pull this one off here in game number 1. And if he can, then that just creates another pick that your opponents have to be thinking about for the rest of the series.
Exactly, and the way that Singed approaches fights is not front to back. He usually will come in from the side or a flank and ruin your battle lines, have the ultimate on, wreak havoc, and against something like a Tristana, he has a grounded effect, so it can be very potent to actually get a carry thrown into your backline.
There are a lot of options with Singed, and a lot of them do depend on item builds because he's so flexible. You can play him as a split push annoying style that everyone knows from solo queue, and we also have seen Impact build a Righteous Glory and try and charge into the backline. Exactly.
We'll see what approach he specifically wants to go for here in game number 1 up against 100 Thieves. He's got 2 big targets in Cody Sun and Ryu. They're going to be dishing out that damage that he's got to find some kind of a way onto. But when Tristana has her disengage and Ryze can trap you up in the Rune Prison, he's going to have to be picking his moments.
All right, it all comes down to this. One series is going to be the culmination of an entire split's worth of work for both of these brand new squads.
One way or the other, we are flying a new banner in the LCS Battle Arena at the end of this one. Both of these teams want to see their colors on that new flag.
And both these organizations coming into the franchise era kind of came in and tried to make a statement. They both had something to prove. For 100 Thieves, it was proof that they need to be taken seriously as a contender for the top spot. And for TL, it's proof that they're never going to let their fans down again, because those 9th place finishes shook a lot of their fans, and they said, nope, not anymore. We're making the changes that need to be made.
Yep, that's why Team Liquid just blew up the roster, put together this squad, and they have delivered the results so far. Now they're into the enemy jungle. Afremu does see them put down the ward, though.
They'll try to clear out a little bit of that vision as 100 Thieves throw down a ward of their own at the enemy jungle on top of that spire, just to see what's going to be going around that critical junction point in enemy territory. But it looks like no one's looking to go too crazy early on here in game number 1. Slight amounts of early vision, no crazy invades, just keeping an eye where they start.
It is important to notice where the junglers are hovering right now, because if the Team Liquid bottom lane is going to go for the pull, meanwhile Meteos, you can see, going to solo his own blue side start here. They're going to have very different jungle paths, as well as look at the mini-map. Cody Sun and Afremu pulling the wave right now, immediately trying to get that push down and the level 2 advantage.
Exactly, get them level 2 faster, get that push on, and so that they can actually survive this bottom lane where the Caitlyn should have a better level 1 through 4.
And that's one of the advantages that Meteos has on this Skarner. You can start without needing the leash. You can do the entire jungle by yourself if necessary because of what the spires lend to the champion. It allows the bottom lane to then be able to have that priority.
And it's interesting too, you always have to track which spires they took in the level 1. Team Liquid were able to get the bottom side, but 100 Thieves did have that top side one, so when Meteos goes back up there, it'll be a bit easier.
And look at the numbers you just saw on the side of your screen. Double lift, 37 KDA, 4-0 so far as Caitlyn during playoffs here in 2018 spring. The man has been a monster on the pick, and Impact is really going to have to respect the damage from Someday early on here.
Yeah, speaking of a monster there, Someday dealing a decent amount of damage with the Ornn. Impact trying to heal back up though. And he does have minion dematerializers on both sides of this lane.
And you think about these two players, the last time they went up against each other, it was that new game on that patch where Someday he got Impact playing Shen into him, and then he got solo killed. And then it ended up being Impact taking over the entire game. Someday has had that in his mind because that's the one game they've lost in that second half of the split. He really wants to get Impact back for that, and you can see he's already kind of taking it to him.
Yeah, Someday definitely had, even as far as the entire season is concerned, a rough start there, but he has really had a resurgence. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, you know, Afremu on this Alistar is something that people associate with him, you know, just because of the name, but also he has the most Alistar games of any North American LCS player ever, career long.
And stylistically, the champion matches up so well for him. When you think about Afremu, you're thinking about a playmaker. You're thinking about the guy who makes things happen for the team, the one who decides, this is our engage, this is our moment, this is our fight. And Alistar's the perfect kind of a champion to enable that play style and those win conditions.
And I remember when they played against each other, Ole back in the NALCS lounge was saying he loves watching Afremu's Alistar in scrims because he'll change whichever skin he has based on how he's feeling, what face he has. Today, he's got the pink chroma, so feeling a little good right now.
Ryu feeling good about the damage he's finding onto Pobelter here in the mid lane, punishing him for being just a little bit too close to that wall. And we talked about this mid lane and how these guys have both got plenty of experience on these champions. That means one little step out of place and you are going to be punished for it.
Yeah, Ryu on the rise was able to use his push early on, get enough money for his tier, then you use your teleport back for your first teleport. It does have the reduced cooldown due to Summoner Spell, Summoner Spellbook, and now he's going for the trades that he has the tier stacking.
Exactly, but he also has the item advantage, right? So that's when you really want to take those trades, is when the other guy has a lot of gold in his pocket that he hasn't spent on items here. So even though it is just a tier, it does amp your damage on Rise. And Someday, dealing a lot of damage to Impact here, and so far he's been winning this matchup.
I feel like every time we pan up towards the top lane, we just see Someday smacking Impact around a little bit. He's building up a farm lead for himself. I mean, it's nothing that we're writing home about already. It's not GG top lane's over, but Someday seems to constantly just be eking out small advantages.
Yeah, when you're playing the Singed, you typically just kind of take the L in the laning phase, and then eventually you get to proxying later, which gives you priority on backs.
Right now, though, junglers have been attracted by all the aggression in top side. Smithy's going to make his way over.
All right, Smithy in here first, finding a little bit of damage down onto Someday, who looks to get himself away. He's going to have Meteos
Garner's on his way
here in just a moment. Should break out into a full-on 2v2 here. Meteos has the Predator ready to go, but will not actually get in the thick of it. They decide to disengage instead.
That's still really great because Someday didn't have to burn his flash there and gets to keep it.
Yeah, Meteos does arrive afterwards to even out the pressure. Smithy's still on that top side, hovering around, though, as they pop a couple of the plants. Looks like Afremu actually going to take a recall here in the brush. Ole and Doublelift want to punish.
Ole keeps walking up to just interrupt those backs, and this bottom lane has so far been going in favor of Team Liquid.
And right now, Doublelift and Ole having a perfect spot in front of their tower here. They're just denying Cody Sun and Afremu access, trying to take advantage of the huge range discrepancy between the two AD carries.
And usually you would call your jungler down here to help you clear this wave out and prevent a freeze, but because TL know that Meteos is on the top side, they know that's not an option.
Exactly. A lot of the threat of a Tristana Alistar lane comes from all in. You know, the Alistar WQ combo and Tristana rocket jumping on. But without that extra pressure, there's no more bite.
You've also got to remember, Afremu, no flash down here in the bottom lane means that they're also going to be more careful on the side of 100 Thieves. That means once Afremu goes in, there's not really a way out if you do end up getting punished. Maybe somebody else is waiting around the corner. Team Liquid recognizing that, and they're able to maintain control down here. Those numbers that we read off for Doublelift's Caitlyn earlier, you don't get those kind of numbers by accident or by luck. This guy knows how to play these types of champions and be successful.
Yeah, and he's been very successful in this game right now. If you look at the CS lead that he's been able to accrue, him and Ole consistently trying to put that pressure back. Cody Sun takes another trade there. Peacemaker landing.
And this is kind of deadly here for 100 Thieves. The wave is going to slow push towards them, so you see them backing off. But then now Meteos is on the bottom side, but he is level 6 before Smithy is. So Meteos, this is the time where he would go for a gank with his flash and try to make it work.
Yeah, it's one of those Skarner advantages. Predator also should be available very soon for him as he's got his boots already. Gonna hand off the blue buff first to Ryu, and he reveals himself on this ward. So once again, when you talk about slow pushes, it provides two separate things. Like, there is an amount of pressure due to a slow push, and it threatens possible dives or threatens possible objectives elsewhere on the map while the big wave is being taken care of.
And now you've got all of Liquid rotating over here, looking to take down the first Drake. Ocean Drake #1, just about 8 minutes into the game. Seeing Meteos on the top part of the map near the blue buff, that's your green light to take down.
Yeah, Meteos is going for the enemy red buff here, and you saw Impact already pulled off of the top lane minion wave, and he just went, okay, I'm going to defend the jungle. Team effort here to try and at least track Meteos and figure out where he is, like the analyst desk was saying.
Ocean Drake definitely a big one for them to pick up, especially for Impact, who's been taking a beating up on that top side. Definitely wants to make use of that regeneration.
Yeah.
Later on, it can also help Singed a lot for proxying because the minions won't take off that regeneration and he can keep his distance from champions.
Yeah, and he's all over that regeneration. He has the Corrupting Potion. He has 2 Dark Seals already to make sure he has that extra healing from the potions. And we have a lane swap here coming through for 100 Thieves. Because they have a wave crashing bottom, they get to do another thing with this slow push and go try to make a power play.
Exactly. We have a bit of a pendulum here as the power swings back to 100 Thieves on the top side. Meteos never left after counter jungling up there.
Nobody can help Impact here. It's a 1v4 under turret.
Meteos has everything available here on the Skarner. The damage coming in, the dive going through, Impact flashing away, still looking to maybe survive. Cody Sun with the damage! And first blood to 100 Thieves.
Cody Sun finishes that off. 100 Thieves make the first move, and they are rewarded for it. Turret also going to fall. Bonus gold available.
Yeah, that turret is going down so quickly as well. And you see Smithy's on the top side of the map. He's not going to help on the bottom.
And we saw 100 Thieves go to full 5 games in the semifinals. What was it that brought this team to come out with the victory over Clutch Gaming? The macro, the shot calls, making that extra element come through, and that's what they're doing here.
The element of surprise is always something that you can leverage. It'll get you a win. It'll get you a large advantage because if they aren't expecting it the first time, it'll definitely catch them off guard. And that's TL going to have to kind of harden up and realize a lot of things can happen when the bottom lane backs. They could be anywhere.
It's always nice to see a team that's in a bad situation react with a proactive move. Cody Sun and an Afreeca were getting denied CS on bottom side. Double Lift was able to accrue and hold a decent CS lead, but they make the first move, they swap out of the bad situation, they get the first blood, they get the first turret, and they've got something back for themselves.
And even though that turret count was evened up by Liquid shortly thereafter, the bonus gold from being the first ones to the trigger pull means that 100 Thieves still has about a 1,000 gold lead.
Yeah, and that gold is spread out. It's not on just Cody Sun. He got that first blood, but he didn't get the first turret by himself. There were about 2 other people alongside him, so it was split up as opposed to just that 650 on a single guy.
And when we see plays like this, and action is now starting in this game, you have to keep in mind the overall team comps and the goals of these teams. Double Lift and Pobelt are still trying to scale up on that Caitlyn and Azir for the deadly late game team fighting. We have some extra components here around mid lane that we're looking at options, but nobody takes the aggressive look.
And there's been no swap back here from 100 Thieves to try and pressure that bottom turret. So Rift Herald is what you would expect to be in the future here for them. As TL, they notice there's a neutral objective up top, not on the bottom side, and they'll swap themselves up and try to match, once again, Cody Sun versus this Double Lift Caitlyn.
Well, we did get to see Team Liquid take the first neutral objective of the game. The next Drake that's going to be spawning is that high-value Infernal Drake. We'll likely see both teams concerned and contesting that as well. Rift Herald alive means this top half of the map could get very spicy very soon. Meteos moving around, taking advantage of the fact that Skarner is adept at soloing these objectives because of his spammable shield, his high damage output with the continued Qs.
They're trying to
we'll
force
see if Liquid can move in time to stop this. Rift Herald.
They don't have Azir, though.
1/3.
Teleport is going in. They're going to go for it.
All right, Ole going to be the one soaking the damage here on the front line. Afreeca backing himself away now as well. Ornn ulti comes through, but now the suppression down onto the TP. Impact going to find himself here in the middle of the fight. Cody Sun caught off the side, having to jump away. Meteos goes back up the wall. Team Liquid still looking to make something happen onto Someday as Pobelter shuffles Ryu back into the river. Someday still running away. Pobelter in some danger. Multiple health bars all over the place going low, and Liquid finds a kill. 100 Thieves with nothing in response.
A fight that started off by TL with a numbers disadvantage. They end up being the ones who get the kill.
100 Thieves, yeah, they're the ones who had the first start on that teleport, and they start the fight, but in the end, Team Liquid are going to get the kill onto Someday. They're going to get the push under the turret afterwards as well, and that is a huge momentum swing.
What is Shelly doing?
She's chilling, dude.
Shelly's stuck in the river, by the way. I'm not really sure.
She's as confused about that fight as we are. We're going to have to take another look at that one in a second here because 100 Thieves have the TP coming in. It's a 5v4. Pobelter is in the mid lane, still running up. As this starts, they survive for long enough. He is so far away.
Yeah, if you look at the top of the mini-map there, they had the Ornn teleport coming in. Someday cuts off most of Team Liquid, but Then they just charge right into the fight and actually break the fight here before Pobelter even made his roam over. But then you have a couple questions about what Pobelter is doing over on this side, because he's got 3 members tangled up. Afreeca in the end gets him out of there. And during that whole time, Team Liquid were focusing down Someday for the kill.
And we praised 100 Thieves a few minutes ago for being able to find the opportunity to make a proactive play when they were behind and get themselves into a spot where they were in the driver's seat. But Liquid, when it comes down to that micro level of calls, when it comes down to properly navigating the fights, you saw right there how adept these players are at making that happen.
Exactly. Figured out the fight finally. Shelly can now return back to her home, back in the pit. So everything is settled, but 100 Thieves, that was a play that they thought would go their way, and it absolutely did not at the end there. TL able to kind of flank you around it, and now you have to go back to this dragon coming up.
Yeah, we got to keep on looking forward here. The Infernal Drake spawning now, and you have to take into account everybody walking over from the mid lane. Still going to take a while for the DPS to arrive from Team Liquid right now. They are in Fog of War, though.
Afreeca is going to be the one who takes the first bit of the aggro. Remember, he does have the ability to become very tanky. Impact now on the front line, going to be looking for some more. Brawl multi comes down. Suppression goes through. Impact going to be taken over. Cody is lower. Flashing over the wall, trying to stay alive. 1 for 1 so far, making it 1 for 2. Team Liquid coming out on top and winning the rights to the Drake.
Yep, they're going to start up the Infernal immediately afterwards. The ping does go down on the top side. As you can see, though, the minions were pushing for 100 Thieves.
Minions pushing for the Thieves, but it's Liquid that grabs that all-important Infernal Drake. Another big neutral objective going through for them. And 100 Thieves really got to be careful about how they're playing these fights.
Exactly. These team fights going the way of Liquid just barely. It's ever so slightly here. Watch this. It starts off with Liquid getting the jump. They flip Afreeca in, but then Olay's ultimate ends up hitting Cody's son here. Xmithy throws his own into that thick of the fight, and they are just chunking Cody meanwhile, and Impact gets the finish with the poison.
This is 2 back-to-back fights now. Meteos' pull has been used on Impact, and it hasn't resulted in a kill. If Skarner's not pulling somebody to their doom, the team fight's likely not going to go too far in your favor.
That kill on Akodi-san was actually so close because Impact was chugging his corrupting potion. The extra damage was able to finish him off there.
And you can see he's gone for the Rylai's Crystal Scepter here. The Righteous Glory was something we talked about before. This is more, once he's in the fight, slow people down, slow down Cody's son, wreak havoc, and just run around in these fights like we saw there, where he's another kind of diver that you always have to think about as a backliner. If you're playing front to back, you really have to watch out for this guy, because he will displace you. He'll throw you towards his Caitlyn or Azir that are doing massive amounts of damage, and it really does affect these battle lines.
As we move more into the mid game now, that has to be not only on the mind of Cody, but on the mind of everyone in 100 Thieves. You've got an Ornn, you've got a Skarner, you've got this Alistar that should be keeping that Tristana and that Ryze safe. But if Impact is able to just go through there and find his way to them every single time, it's not going to work.
And it buys space for Doublelift, who has a large CS lead right now. He's the most gold in the game.
Yeah, there's definitely a concentration of gold there because of the extra CS. Rift Herald now started up by Team Liquid. They just continue. Force objective after objective. They're trying to push it.
There's no TPs either, so these bottom laners cannot join right now if they wanted to. And you saw Impact had priority. He's already in Fog of War.
Rift Herald goes the way of Team Liquid. That is 3 for 3 neutral objectives under their belts. A 2-to-1 team objective lead in terms of those turrets. They are currently owning everything about this map. We'll see what they can turn that Rift Herald into here. They've got control over the mid lane. That turret's still standing pretty strong.
Yeah, the last outer here is the mid lane. That would definitely be the next target. There's a lot of defensive vision you can see from 100 Thieves that they've kind of been pushed back into their own territory, and all these control wards used to try and stop invades. But that has just meant that Team Liquid continually forcing these outer turrets, these outer objectives in the Dragons as well as the Rift Herald. Meteos is on a ward bottom side for this attempt.
Yeah, Meteos has been pretty hamstrung this game. Impact has kind of had his number with wards, also stopping him from kind of getting around in their own jungle unawares. But Meteos hasn't been able to do too much, especially in these fights too. Like you were saying, Captain Flowers, those pulls have to have a large impact on them, and it just hasn't been there quite yet. We are seeing, though, the Banner of Command here for Someday come out, and it looks like, yeah, Abyssal Mask next. So he got a lot of MR for himself. He's got ways to kind of deal with this push here, where if he were to get proxied, he could just lay down that cannon minion with a buff and make sure that Impact can't clear it out with Singed.
And one thing you are seeing, though, because Meteos hasn't been able to get the pulls onto one of the 2 value targets of Team Liquid, neither one of those carries really feels the need to pay the Skarner tax yet. Sometimes against these suppression champions, you will see the QSS come out very early, but right now there's no concern about that for either Pobelter or Double Lift.
Exactly. It's so hard to get to them because you have two of those Freljord champions, the Sejuani and the Braum for stuns and slows, and then you have this Singed on top of it. So Skarner, it's a difficult task to get to a backline.
There are plenty of forms of initiation, though, available. And we're also going to have to keep our eyes on Ole, this Braum, the Unbreakable. So often we see supports forgetting about the Ornn ultimates, you know, using the Unbreakable for something else, and not having that for the team fight. If an Ornn ultimate comes through and sticks up the whole team, it makes the other members' jobs that much more easy, and Midos can get one of those pulls.
Yeah, you have to kind of force out that Unbreakable before you throw out that ultimate. So some days kind of secondary engage, and you're relying on somebody like Afromu or Meteos to really start these fights.
You can see Ryu pushing up the top side here, just trying to get more map control, more map priority, shove this lane up, make Pobelter answer that. He'll summon up that special Sun Disc to help him defend that, but Impact, no fear this game, just continually causing that pressure in the side lane, pushing this up here as well.
And they're waiting for an opportunity to use that Rift Herald from Xmithy. He still has that, remember, and that could reward them with a turret here. And especially with Baron in 45 seconds, more priority means more likelihood that you're able to get that objective.
And right now, where 100 Thieves would want to make a counter move would possibly be when Team Liquid are spread out with Pobelter very far away, because their advantage in mobility is in the rise on the side lane versus an Azir in the side lane. You can see Pobelter there just roamed up to answer a minion wave, but during that timeline, Team Liquid cover the weakness. They have Impact join the rest of the squad for disengage, so they're not allowing the opening that 100 Thieves would want to try and take advantage of, and here comes the Rift Herald activation in order to get the mid turret.
Yeah, remember, she takes off that backdoor bonus, so they're treating her like a minion. They're gonna run up with her as 5 members strong in the mid lane for TL and crack that mid turret.
Rift Herald taking down the mid turret creates a pathway for Liquid to now rotate into another objective. The Drake spawning here in 20 seconds. The Baron just now going live. Liquid decides it's time to reset and be ready for those.
Again, especially when watching both of these two teams, it's so much about the preparation for these plays. Impact was just pushing on the bottom side with his Rylai's Crystal Scepter. They prep that wave, then move up for the Rift Herald activation. They have now timed their recalls so that they can get back out onto the field in time for that Drake. Heading through, again, there's no deep vision for 100 Thieves, so Team Liquid get there just in time.
Coming into the discussion on this game, talked about how neither of these teams wins explosively early when we heard win conditions from the desk and kind of how that's going to be played out. So you don't expect either of these two to really get off to one of those crazy starts where they're just running over the entirety of the game. But now as we crest the 20-minute mark, as we get further in, we're going to start to see these two settle onto what the tempo of the game will look like from here on out, potentially.
And both of these teams have had intelligent macro moves at different points in this game. You know, Team Liquid leveraged the early power of Double Lift on this Caitlyn in the huge CS lead, but 100 Thieves then went for the first blood, the first turret with their swap. Ever since then, though, Team Liquid have been on every single objective.
And looking forward, 100 Thieves, they have a 1-3-1 composition. So the macro for them is something they're going to have to tap into here. Like you were saying, Kobe, when Pobelter's in a side lane trying to answer the rise, that's a large advantage for them. So 100 Thieves are looking to kind of pull apart the Team Liquid composition with a 1-3-1 when they can. But TL, they're really good in team fights. They have these two big hyper carries with the Azir and the Caitlyn, and right now, Double Lift even has a Zeke's Convergence behind him to amp his damage.
And the difference of the completed Infinity Edge is huge on him because of the CS lead that they had from the early game. Right now is a big power spike for the Caitlyn.
Yeah, when you look at the items completed on the side of Team Liquid, you've got your Nashor's Tooth, plus the Haunting guys there for Pobelter. Double Lift having those 2 crit synergy items like you were already mentioning with the Caitlyn. This team's at a point where they're very scary in a team fight.
Cody says, he finished his. I want mine
I gotta
now.
do mine.
He's able to go get his, and the Infinity Edge is now completed. But they already started the push.
And you can see Impact on the side threatening, forcing Cody Sun to play more towards the north here and away from him.
Push
and there's an engage.
Through, but there you go. Immediately shutting it down with the Unbreakable 100 Thieves. Looking to isolate something here, maybe go after Impact yet again, but they're not going to use the Skarner ulti on that Singe. They've learned their lesson from the previous fights.
That's why, like what Zyrene was saying, the order of your initiation tools is very important for the 100 Thieves. They have to do something to try and get Ole to blow that spell before Ornn ult is used, or use it in an area where he can't easily take it out. Otherwise, get it put to a stop very quickly.
Yeah, you could see the thought process there. Ryu was coming in from the side to potentially root. Afromu looked like he was about to walk up, but got slowed, and they grab Sejuani, they grab it Smithy.
Meteos decides this is the pull, this is the play, this is the initiation, and they find the enemy jungler.
And again, Afromu and Meteos, they have had so many combinations this year. This time, he pulls them into the tower range for the headbutt further in to the tower, and they get the kill onto the front line.
And I like how he headbutts him, then flashes and Qs, because if you headbutt Q, they aren't going to go as far. Wants him really deep under that turret.
And there is no escape for him after that. So an important kill on the jungler, and now 100 Thieves are trying to move out and regain some of the vision control, which they'll use to try and set up.
It's not just about the kill, it's about what the kill means. What can you get? What do you translate this into in terms of your standing on the map? These teams only 500 gold apart now, means every little advantage you can find is going to be huge. Afromu eats some damage there, getting down some wards in Liquid territory.
Exactly. I mean, everyone always talks about the Caitlyn scaling among AD carries, but Tristana, no joke, and the range is also getting up there as well. So here's another look at it. Meteos with the pull, Afromu with the follow-up right there, and they get the dunk.
No way out of some chain CC like that between Skarner and Alistar. As long as they layer it correctly, you're going to be stuck there a while.
Yeah, the idea there from Smithy looked like he was going to walk through mid because he saw one of the members of 100 Thieves in about that midpoint near that tier 1 turret. Potential flank, potential setup, but they caught him red-handed looking for that.
Always nice to see those two veterans working together on this new squad. Right now, though, fighting over the control wards. That's something we've seen quite a few supports lose their lives over.
And Ornn is flanking right now, and they see Pobelter top. This is the opportunity.
Here it comes. Ornn going through, able to find a little bit of control through that one. Devil's going to be in some trouble, knocked up into the air, damage coming through. Devil taken down! And Cody Sun delivers the kill shot. What else can the Thieves find, though? Right now, they'll move towards Baron.
That was amazing from Someday, just sniping double lift right there on the side. They're able to get the knockups. Cody Sun doesn't hesitate to jump right in, and they get the kill. Baron is started up.
Talking about no hesitation, this is the kind of play this team wants to make. They're going for Baron. They've gone down to half. Afromu coming around from the side, the shuffle backwards, looking to disengage, and the suppression comes through. And Pobelter is dragged down. Team Liquid stands 3 versus 5, and 100 Thieves head right back into the pit.
They still have to worry about Smithy smiting this. They don't have vision just yet. Ole is trying to get some here.
Baron 1/4 HP, very, very low. Smithy wanting to go over the wall.
Oh,
He's got it! Smithy with the steal!
Oh my God, and he gets out. Cody Sun chasing him, but it's actually Team Liquid who steal from the 100 Thieves.
What a play from the veteran jungler of Team Liquid. The laugh that you hear from Impact Singed is the laugh that Liquid is feeling after that one. That is how you save a disaster.
Watch Afromu. He's not able to headbutt him because he's grounded by Impact's acid. He throws down the mega adhesive, so you can't headbutt during that time.
What a play right there. Barry heads up. They're able to make it happen. Smithy, after all that, also is able to time the smite. And Baron now for Team Liquid.
And you saw the look on Meteos' face there, as now 100 Thieves might be able to find the pick that keeps this Baron play at bay. Cody Sun has the damage to pick Ole off there, and that is big for slowing this down.
100 Thieves do not give up. They continue to force plays here, and now they're back at it.
100 Thieves once again in the driver's seat. Ornn comes through. Pobelter knocked up into the air, having to flash away, keeping himself alive. Afromu taken down. Double's got the damage. He's out of there. And Liquid responds.
Smithy gonna get the slows here onto Someday. Will they chase him down? Impact coming through.
Cody Sun's at half HP for this fight. 100 Thieves needs to be very mindful of that. Liquid still looking to maybe find their opportunity. Impact on the side.
And they still have the Baron buff, so they still have so many options.
Yeah, now they're going to be able to go straight towards that Ocean Drake. They got the mid priority, and now they have all 5 members back up. Ole is on his way.
Yep, double left. He just pushed that mid lane minion wave. They get the objective, and now they can switch back.
4 for 4 elemental drakes for Team Liquid. You talk about win conditions, 35 minutes rolls around, that could be a big one. Let's take another look at the pick potentially onto Pobelter.
Afromu goes in, but it's the cleanse flash there, and he also gets his ultimate off after he gets chunked for about half his HP.
Pobelter with another escape here on the Azir. And they're able to salvage a couple of Baron buffs still alive for themselves as well.
But they get triple Ocean. This means they can stay out on the map. And when you're baiting Barons back and forth, this is actually such a great buff to have.
Fantastic buff to have for these guys. They're still up 1,000 gold. 80 carries. We talked about how important both these guys are for their teams. They're both at that 3-item power spike these champions are known for. And Team Liquid sets up the line. They make the siege. They take the tier 2. They've got 55 seconds left to pressure onto the inhibitor turrets.
Now watch on the outside for the trap line here, as well as the Mega Adhesive to try and deny the engagement from 100 Thieves.
Meteos, no flash available on this Skarner. Does have Predator up.
Yeah.
No Righteous Glory in the build this time around. Went for Knight's Vow instead.
And there's no dematerializers, so this cannon minion is just actually, they're trying to get aggro. You can see it's hitting Meteos right now, and he's happy with that because it's not hitting the turret. But now, the next wave shows up, and they're just going to knock this inhibitor turret down at 28.5 minutes.
Cannon Minion MVP, now Team Liquid, still 20 seconds left on the Baron buff, moves themselves into position onto the inhibitor, managing to go for the throw, trying to get Someday there into the middle. They pick him off, Meteos through the side, now going to be isolated himself, taken down, and Team Liquid could win right here, a double kill for Double Lift.
Bowbelter sweeps in Cody-san, and they take down the AD carry, and they're still pushing.
Yeah, they have the Baron buff. They have the Baron buffed up minion. It just falls off the cannon. There they go.
Everybody's ready to go. The TP used to keep the minion alive. Nexus turret number 1 under fire. It is taken down. They're still looking to force the fight. 5 versus 2. Ryu's looking to hold on, but cannot do it. The Thieves are out, and Liquid will take game number 1. What an incredible push off of an even more incredible Baron steal.
29.5 minutes in. Team Liquid will go up 1-0.
Question I pose to you, will teams lead into their strengths, meaning G2 play top, or will they try to protect their weaknesses, meaning, for example, G2 play bot?
Well, we just heard from Yombok, they're preparing both things on the side of Fnatic. They can either try and shut down Wonder, or they can try and ignore him and play around the other side. We have to see if that's the same for G2 Esports. I'm expecting them to focus on Wonder, put him on a carry if they can. And I think Fnatic with the first Camille ban, they're saying, yeah, we do expect you to play one of these carries, and we remove the first one.
So with Trundle taken off the board, you are expecting something like an early rotation of something like the Olaf, perhaps even the Skarner as well. We saw a lot of priority on it yesterday in our third place decider. G2, by being red side, they're forced into this Swain ban, but also a respect ban in the Xayah.
Have to see G2 with the last ban here. Caitlyn is still left open. We know Reckless can play it, even though we haven't seen it that much from him during the actual split. Could be a choice for Fnatic, unless they're looking at something as like a Tahm Kench pick, which will be very valuable between the two teams.
Couple seconds left for that first pick priority. Obviously, jungle's all taken out the pool, and it will be the Braum locked in for Hylissang.
Oh, they were watching a Splash yesterday, I guess, with Kissing early picking Braum every game. This is not something that should hurt G2 too much, because Vadidas definitely preferred the Tahm Kench whenever he had the chance to play it.
I also wonder here if Fnatic are hoping that G2 go for something like the Caitlyn, try and get that early lane dominance down in the bottom lane. We saw Ryze pretty much taken off the board throughout the semifinals and yesterday in the third place decider, and now it's going to be in Perks' hands, one of his most comfortable champions from the regular season.
If you are Fnatic and to try and explain the first pick Braum, one of the things they do like is when Hylissang can try and make some plays. They play a lot of these comps where he's allowed to roam. He can then connect, a bit of CC onto one target, and they can single down one member. But Tahm Kench is here to try and counter that as much as possible. And the Ryze pick, we talked about mid lane being undecided. Ryze is one of the strongest picks in the current meta, especially if you play around him. But that's a unique AD carry for Reckless.
Unique indeed. Most played AD carry for Reckless in that Tristana, and I've heard so many people say when you get it, it's GG already.
Well, we'll have to see if G2 can handle it, given that looking at what's available right now, a lot of jungle bans, this could be an opportunity for G2 to lock in the Kha'Zix, but instead, they're looking for a little bit more engage in the Zac.
Trying to match as well against the Sejuani tankiness from both junglers, scaling on both sides, but Reckless Tristana, this is a pick a lot of teams ban away. It's actually the most banned champion against Fnatic in playoffs because, yeah, you don't want to deal with it. On G2's side, I think they're saying we know he's going to play it if it's open. We can draft around that. Strong scaling on their side. A lot of mobility from a Zac, and then, of course, Tahm Kench ulti plus Ryze ult. You can port your entire team from lane to lane, trying to make plays while Reckless is scaling.
And now I wonder if G2 are going to look to try and get a bit of lane dominance of their own. Remember that in the early laning phase, Tristana can be pushed around. Champions like Jhin and Caitlyn are both stuff that Yanan loves to play and could go for.
Yeah, and we saw Yanan dominate on that Jhin earlier here in playoffs. There's a good chance he wants to grab it for himself. Synergizes nicely as well with things like Zac, who can jump in from long range, and you can pick people off.
And we talked about Wunder playing carries. Look at the 3 carries that have now been banned away. Camille, Fiora, and Gangplank. It feels like they're trying to pressure G2 onto something like a Sion so they can answer them with a choke.
And if Wunder's playing a tank, we might see Yanan on a more scaling AD carry, where he becomes the one they actually play around in the late game. They already got the Tahm Kench to protect in the laning phase, and that's what we're getting now with this Jinx here. So they're simply saying, we realize there's a chance we have to play tank top, so we need Yanan to be the big man.
Oh, interesting. The decision-making here from G2 will explore how they make that Jinx work. For Fnatic, how do they round out their team composition? We're going to see what Caps and Bwipo are going to play.
Well, right now they've got Engage with the Sejuani, and they have decent follow-up with the Braum as well. They're looking for something safe to go into the Azir. Talia could work here for Caps if he wants to try and bring a bit of wave clear and roaming pressure. The alternative, of course, is the Orianna, should he want a little bit more laning power.
I love this pick, and I especially love to see it in a game 1 if he locks it in, because if you win with Aurelion Sol, the enemy team has to respect it in every single pick and ban phase from here. But it's gonna be Karma mid lane for Caps instead.
Looks
Bit
like
of a change.
Yeah, Fnatic looking to play entirely around Reckless this game. They do still have decent push in the middle lane.
Gentlemen, I see 2 team compositions that seem pretty focused around their AD carries as one of the pivotal members in the team compositions.
And that's where initially we said Fnatic's bot lane should have the advantage. Let's see if someone like Yanan can change that in the first game. Of course, there is Ryze versus Karma in the mid lane. A ton of early game damage on both sides. But Karma still, when it goes full late game, it's more about the utility she brings and a bit of burst damage up front.
But I'm looking at this G2 composition and I'm thinking Jankos is going to want to gank Perks. One of the big easy lane setups is in the middle lane. Looks like Caps isn't going to be running the cleanse. You do have the potential gank setup, especially with Zac coming from all these unique angles, the flash in from the Ryze as well. I see a lot of potential kill pressure, and maybe they want to put Caps in an uncomfortable situation.
I also saw Fnatic come in with a plan of remove carries from top lane, make it a tank v tank matchup. That favors Bwipo and Fnatic, because then Wunder is not the one G2 can play around. Tank v tank top means we look for the other lanes.
Oh, looking at the other lanes and the question mark of this mid lane matchup, Karma into Ryze. What a tense start to the EU LCS Spring Split Finals. Fnatic taking on G2. We'll see how the decision making works out in game. Just as a reminder to everybody at home, we will once again be running our POV stream. Which we'll get to in just a moment as Grabs and Delafalco shake hands for the first time of hopefully many throughout the course of the day. There's your team compositions once again. Guys, jump onto Twitter, let us know your thoughts, and check out twitch.tv/RightGames2 if you want to check out the POV stream for G2 Perks.
Oh, that's going to be a fun one. In the middle lane, 4-time defending champion Perks, looking to make a 5th one here today. I know that Ocelot had a lot of confidence in his team in the dressing room earlier on today, and now we are getting into game 1.
We are indeed. Copenhagen, help me introduce game 1 of your Spring Split Finals. Ladies and gentlemen, let's set the scene. G2 versus Fnatic. All-time records are in favor of G2 Esports. 16 wins to 11. This is the first time they meet in a finals, and Deficio, we've had the pleasure of seeing these two organizations over many years, but this is the first time they meet in such a pivotal series.
Yeah, and a lot of people look at last year as the year where we would get Fnatic versus G2, but Fnatic never made it into the final. This year, however, whenever they play G2 Esports, they've won 2-0 in the regular season. Both games, funny enough, were with G2 winning early, but then Fnatic coming back late. This game here, there's a lot of focus now on especially the AD carries.
Yeah, because down in the bottom lane, Reckless, he has his comfort of Tristana. He's a guy that's willing to play and pick it. He's so confident in how he's able to execute it. And Hjarnan, during the regular season, did not really show the strongest of performances. Coming into semifinals, he really did step up. We heard a lot of praise from the other members of G2 saying how much he was able to carry the team. And now they're both on hyper carries. Both these teams are going to rely on them to be the big damage threats later on.
And before we get to the point where the AD carries can take over team fights, we look towards mid. We saw there with the graphic, we said it already coming into it. This is the matchup that's undecided for us. We cannot predict straight away if Caps will beat Perks or the other way around. A lot of it's gonna come down to Jankos and Broxa. Broxa in the semifinal camped the mid lane, killed Jizuke from Vitality so many times. And it was not something we've really seen before. I want to see if that's the playstyle again for Fnatic, because they got the early damage from Karma.
And I love the development that Brox as a jungler has made over the last year, because you think back to when he initially joined Fnatic, he was this cool playmaker on champions like Lee Sin and Jarvan. He wasn't afraid to make those crazy plays, and over time, he kind of moved back from that, kind of filled this role of just being that supportive jungler. But recently, we've seen him grow into this, I can work with Caps, we can be an extremely strong duo, and it was a big part of their success in the semifinal.
It will indeed, and of course, if you want to see how Caps and Perks do in that lane, check out the POV stream. Just one quick reminder, Riot Games 2. Heard a few complaints yesterday about being very grayscale. We'll see if that'll be any different today, because of course we've touched on that 2v2, and we'll see how Jankos will impact those lanes. Jankos definitely a standout player, first time in the finals, and already being a little bit invaded on. If you look at the minimap, Broxa sitting just behind him on the Grump, and he's going to be challenging. There's not a lot of support from Fnatic, though. You can see first to move was Wadid.
One of the big issues with Zac is he does use a lot of his own health to clear through the jungle, so you can always feel confident invading onto a Zac, knowing that you have that health advantage, and with Reckless and Hylissang getting that early push, Broxa was able to get in, get a bit of vision, get that insight as to where Jankos was. Looks like he's going to go back to base and do his first buy.
Now, it is interesting we have so much scaling on both sides in the first game. Yesterday we had a lot of aggression, early compositions where junglers were ganking left and right. This one is tank versus tank in the jungle, tank versus tank in the top lane, and same for support. So there's a lot of focus on actually just kind of playing a little bit safer early and get a few items, get a few levels, except for just around mid. It seems to be the only lane where we could potentially get some 1v1 action.
And of course, playing the first game of a potential 5, feeling your opponents aren't playing the slightly, I'm going to use this term, and correct me if I'm wrong, slightly easier to execute team compositions, a little bit more linear than maybe some split pushing styles that we've seen in the past. It's a good way to break yourselves open into the game, and we'll see what Bwipo and Wonder can do as they will scale up and eventually become more impactful in the later stage.
You know, and it's interesting as well because I had an opportunity to chat with Bwipo a little bit last night, and he was telling me a little bit about all these top lane matchups and how confident he feels on champions like the Cho'Gath. And right now, with Wonder on that champion, they may be looking for a gank up top.
All right, Jankos, the First Blood King, looking to live up to his namesake. Stretching strike connects, will pull Bwipo back. That's very nice. Elastic slingshot comes in, gets the knockup. First blood on the cards. Bwipo's going to go down, and G2 strike first.
Wonder on this Cho'Gath here. He had the counter pick. Yes, he's on a tank, but he's still able to do very well in this early laning phase. Because not only is he currently winning on CS, he had a lane that was pushing against him. Jankos timed that perfectly to appear on top side, and then they gank the young rookie from Fnatic.
It is so difficult for Sion to play into this matchup. He cannot deal with all the sustain that Wonder's able to throw out, and as a result, he set up the lane nicely. They get this early kill. Jankos is the one that strikes first.
Exactly as expected for a man with that sort of title. I love that 8-1 win-loss for the Brom. For Hylissang, we'll talk about that in a second, but just a well-executed gank.
Now for Broxa, he invested vision towards the bot side. He wanted to keep an eye on where Jankos was, but for Jankos, he knew that there was little vision towards the top side. Bwipo was overextended, and it became an easy first play.
And I love the fact that he connects the Q and then he waits. The flash then comes out, and then he pulls his move and actually smacks them together. So suddenly, Whippo cannot escape. He ends up going down. That's important for G2, also just the mental edge. Whippo is the young rookie, the guy replacing Source, who's sitting with his injury, unable to play. And it's the first time this man is stepping on a big stage. There's a lot of pressure on him, despite it being a Wonder favorite matchup from the get-go.
You know, and it's funny because when you talk to him, he says that there's little to no pressure on him. Because
There's always pressure.
He is the underdog. No one's expecting him to perform. So he can just play his style, he can do his thing, and he feels like a lot of the blame isn't going to fall on top of him. Because when you're playing with Caps and Reckless, you're not supposed to be the star anymore.
Now let's see what sort of counterplay Fnatic have on the cards. The root will connect onto Perks. He's still got Cleanse and Flash available. Winter's Bite from Hylissang flies a little wide, and Perks holds his nerve, realizes there's no threat, and easily walks away.
Reckless left in the 1 versus 2. G2 aren't quite quick enough to find any kind of punish, and Jankos will end up going back to base. But this is something that you do often see a lot from Hylissang. He likes to roam around the map. DeFisher, you mentioned it in the draft. He is a playmaker, and he's definitely very confident on champions like the Braum. Very early on into the game, already looking for those roams.
Taking a look down at the bottom lane. We've actually not looked too much down here. It's been a bit of a farm fest. 60 CS for Reckless. He's gone back to pick up his Berserker's Greaves. Hyunan's already picked up the BF Sword in that matchup. And small advantage for Hylissang and Reckless, but they're getting to that point where ultimates are available and some plays can be made, because I remember Hylissang from playoffs, his Braum was extremely aggressive.
Yeah, and that's the thing we can see from him. As long as the team can follow, it looks really good. Gotta see what Jankos is up to after successfully ganking the top lane once. For now, it is just pure vision and continue farming. We'll find a few more wards on his side, but Reckless Tristana is the one I actually want to talk about real quick. Because a lot of people are like, why is Reckless so good at Tristana? What is he doing that's so special? I mean, first of all, he's just extremely good at playing team fights, which is where Tristana can shine. Second of all, she has a jump. She can be very aggressive in her positioning, and he can use that to find an opening for the first kill that gets him a reset, and he can just pop off completely. And it's very hard to then stop him.
It certainly is. But he has to get to that point. And one of the things you can also praise Reckless for is, regardless on how bad the matchup is, he always seems to come out very healthy during the laning phase. You only have to look at his CSD record to identify that Tristana is typically a weak laning phase champion, but Reckless never makes it look like that.
And I want to see if Fnatic in this game want to actually do what they do sometimes with this Tristana, lane swap with it later. Let's see what happens here, junglers.
Oh, Broxah's going to get jumped on by the Realm Warp. Oh, beautiful ultimate! Stops Perks the moment he arrives. And that's the mechanics that Broxah showed up with on the EU LCS stage. G2 do not find a second kill.
G2, they're trying to be proactive though, looking to punish Broxah as he's moving through his own half of the jungle. Realm Warp being used very early on, and unfortunately G2 are not able to find anything, so Fnatic continuing to stall. Remember, a lot of this composition revolves around Reckless. He is one of the main damage dealers. When you're on this Karma, you're going much more towards a poke support role rather than a big damage dealer like Ryze.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Karma players still build a ton of AP. It's not the old like Athene's Ardent Center rush instantly. It is like you get your tier, you fully stack it, you upgrade it, Death Cap comes in fairly quickly as well, and you get a ton of AP in the mid game. So your poke damage is insane, but as you highlighted, Vedius, once the actual fight breaks out, when it's 3 tanks and a supportive mid laner, yeah, it's about the AD carry.
And when you got Reckless on your team, you absolutely want it to be about him. All right, let's take a look. Jankos with another gank. Gets the Chilling Smite down. Stretching Strike connects once again. Pulling Caps backwards. There's the Let's Bounce. That's going to deliver Caps to the mid lane. Caps survives a hell of a long time. Double Caps escaped. How did he do that?
Caps actually gets out of that situation. It looked like such a well-executed gank from Jankos, but Caps survived.
I was convinced he was going to die 3 separate times. He's cheeky enough to even teleport back to the mid lane and even get some damage
Going
down
for a trade, Trevor.
Gets the root down.
Even gets the cleanse. He was worried because he saw Broxah coming in from the flank. He knew that if he didn't get out of this situation, he could be in dire straits. Caps, beautiful execution from him.
All the action early, it's Jankos setting it up from G2's side with the Zac. It's what we often see when Zac gets picked, doesn't get shut down in the early game. He's so active at finding different ways to appear in these lanes. I think Jankos, man, yeah, for sure. He was like, we got it. Double flash to try to finish. I think Caps just shielded himself in time to stay alive towards the end. So 2 big summoners blown on G2's side. Of course, the same for Caps.
So 10 minutes into the first game, G2 with a small gold lead. Nothing to speak of. CS differences also negligible. Only Reckless with a small lead. He's picked himself up that BF sword after returning back to lane. And towers have not necessarily been chipped a whole lot, so we're definitely into this mid to late game team fight, team comp style.
But look at Fnatic. They've taken control over the bot side river. You would imagine that their initial goal is to go towards this Cloud Drake, an objective that if you get in the early game does give you that extra bit of movement speed, makes these movements a little bit easier around the map.
What we typically see from Fnatic, though, when Reckless gets a few items under his belt, is to start playing more towards his lane. Tristana is still one of the best at taking down early turrets. He has the attack speed to actually get a few hits off and then back away. We already saw Broxah down here. He just recalled. If Caps can push in the mid lane, he can roam first. Perk should always be able to match, though, with the Ryze ulti. So it makes it a little bit easier for G2 to defend against Fnatic's potential siege in the bottom lane.
I'm just keeping my eyes on what Jankos is up to. We talked a little bit in the draft about how he could look to set up a lot of ganks around the middle lane. So far, he's found one successful gank. And given that there is no flash, I feel like a repeat gank in that area of the map would make sense. This time, I would expect Caps to not be able to get out.
We see one of the problems for Fnatic is warding around mid to protect him. Jankos is not spotted at the moment, coming from that top side. Caps is playing very safe. He's okay for now.
He didn't pull a trigger to Fishio. Jankos very active in the early game. We've seen multiple ganks while he's only secured one kill. There's a replay of the mechanics at the bottom of your screen. Just really well played.
Yeah, so keep an eye on the shield. It was used initially there. Karma gets also, I believe, the heal off of the W as well. And then just as they flash in, the shield just comes off cooldown once again. Good management of his abilities to get the most out of that situation.
Now, question. Didn't even see...
Oh, Broxah even body blocked. Holy, that would have actually killed him as well.
Whether that was intentional or not...
We'll assume it was intentional.
Awesome. That was awesome. Broxah saving Caps' life. Now, I have a question for you, gentlemen. Broxah has been silent for 12 minutes on that Sejuani. His team is still even, 600 gold behind. That's not a whole lot to speak of. When does he start activating for Fnatic? I know we've talked about the Reckless 2-item spike. Is it really just that simple?
I think for him, if you look at G2's summoner spells, it is almost impossible to set up a gank of his own. There's cleanse in the mid lane, there's cleanse from the enemy support, and that's what can also eat his AD carry in case he's the one getting hit. So it's very difficult for Broxah to be active. His job is mainly just to keep up in farm and experience, and then try to get vision down to spot where Jankos is going. But that does give some control to G2 Esports at the moment.
And that means they get the dragon. There's no contest here. If you look at the vision from Fnatic, there's nothing to spot it out. So the first dragon of the finals, the Cloud secured amid some golf claps here in the Royal Arena, and Jankos has the potential of another gank, but there's some respect from Reckless and Hylissang. They back away.
This is a very classic game one of the final, where both teams are taking a little bit easy. No one is going for something completely crazy in the early game. Of course, also with scaling on both sides, the way you want to play these compositions is technically just farm up early on. The top laners are trading a little bit, but not a whole lot should happen from it, seeing as there's no junglers nearby.
So we're talking about scaling. We're heading into the mid game. Do you prefer one team scaling over another? To Fishio, what do you think?
Oh, I think with Tristana for Reckless on one side, but a Jinx on the other one, it gets very evenly matched. The problem, of course, for Fnatic is that Karma's own damage, because she only has one real big damage ability to use, is definitely not the same as a Ryze. But if Karma with her utility can make sure that someone like Reckless gets enough time to actually kill the front line of G2, then that might not matter at all. Jankos is trying again, though.
Yeah, a little bit opportunistic, as Caps is able to use that movement speed to escape, throws down the shield and the E and clears out the wave. Still holding his own. I guess it comes down to playstyle then, because of course you've got the Feast on the side of G2, so they have a little bit of an advantage in that Baron pit.
Yeah, and also, just touching on that Feast around, we got to look at Hylissang in the middle lane. Once again, looking for another row.
All right, let's take a look. Perks has already sidestepped Hylissang's Winter's Bite, and both of these mid laners, man, they are not going to give up easy kills. It has to be earned, it has to be taken on this stage, because neither of them have made missteps just yet.
Look how immaculate the farm is as well. 14 minutes, 50 seconds, and we're already cresting 160 CS across all of the carries. But it's fascinating, you know, we are here in the final between both G2 and Fnatic, something that many fans were hoping for, and for a while we weren't able to get, but now it's here, and you just have to imagine the pressure that's on some of these shoulders, because for G2, something that Ocelot said at the beginning of the show was there's a lot of new players for G2 on their side. The first time they've made it to the final, Jankos' first final, he had that semi-final curse that he was dealing with for such a long time. Hjarnan and Wadid, the new bottom lane that were coming in for Sven and Mithy, So much is on the line for so many of these players to live up to G2's long championship record.
And I mean, Hyanin stepped up last weekend. All split long was a little bit of a second fiddle to the rest of the team. It was Wonder and Perk's show a lot of the time. But in the semi-finals, Hyanin's Jin, as we mentioned in Picks and Bans, and just his performance all series long, really exceptional. He's going to need another outstanding performance because of the seriousness of the matchup and, of course, his opponent.
So now we've just passed the 50-minute mark. You can see some of the main key items have been completed, and I feel like both teams are looking for a fight.
Well, they are indeed. Reckless is the one that starts it. He goes forward with that rocket jump. Hylissang splits up the team. He's already thrown down that Glacial Fissure. Let's bounce. Pulls back two. This is a bad fight for Fnatic. Hylissang's already down. Brox is running for his life, and he'll get dropped. It's a double kill for Hyanin. Raining down the rockets onto Fnatic as Reckless and Caps are running for their lives. Jankos gets two, pulls them back with the stretching strike. Defensive flash from Caps, and G2 find another, the third of the fight. It's a whitewash, and G2 are crushing Fnatic.
Fnatic started this fight here. Reckless jumped in first, but then it was G2 reacting instantly, and they knew they could win it from the get-go. 2 kills now onto the Jinx. We just had a slow early game. Everyone just matching farm, but we talk about the scaling, we talk about a Jinx. She's now getting fed.
Now it's Hyanin on Wadid that go up to clear out the control ward, but Fnatic are in a position where they think they can collapse. It's a 3-on-3 initially, but then look at the Rise ultimate and the TP coming in from the flank. G2 just reacts quicker, and Reckless is forced out of the fight from the get-go.
And also with Perks matching with that Rise ult, we talked about that earlier, how he can just follow to one of the side lanes, and he's there instantly. And this Zac pick from Jankos as well, setting up so much CC. They all need to pull back 2 members of Fnatic so they can't flash away to safety. So far, the Zac has been huge for G2 Esports.
And now that is a 3-0 fight for G2 Esports. They've gotten a very solid early game lead, and a lot of the gold is funneled into Hyanin. Defisho, you mentioned it. Trevor, you were just talking so much about he is an individual that eyes are on. Hyanin versus Reckless, the battle for the better Swede. So far, it's Hyanin that has the advantage.
And let's see if we can keep it up, of course, because G2 have got that 2,000 gold lead. They've got a 4-kill advantage. But no towers have fallen, just that single dragon. The map is still wide open, and that is standing gold for both teams.
And we're just kind of waiting for another one, like the one we just saw here. Not a big team fight, but both teams are fully committing with everything. Now, of course, the TPs will be on cooldown, so it might take a while, unless Jankos wants to do something. They have their winning bot lane with the Jinx. They're already on the way to pressure the turret. Fnatic looked for another pick, but Perks had his flash.
Yeah, he did have to flash out of that situation. Always means that there's another potential gank opportunity. But while all that action was going on, Hyanin was just beating his way down onto the turret. Will secure the first objective of the game in favor of G2. And now you would imagine they're moving up towards the top side, where we actually see both top laners having a bit of a back and forth.
Yeah, they're fighting a fight between 2 turrets, in fact. And Wonder might be in trouble as Brox is leaning that way. But as it stands, the arena here in Copenhagen is being brought to a standstill. There's a lot of Fnatic fans here, and they're going to have to rally behind the squad, who are falling behind as we get to 20 minutes.
Now, the one thing I will say about G2's comp is they do have a lot of magic damage on their side with the Cho'Gath, the Zax, the Rise. You can see early magic resistance seems to be the name of the game for Fnatic, as Jankos looks for another gank.
All right, he's flashed in, uses the Let's Bounce. Realm Warp will deliver Perks into the mid lane. Glacial Fissure buys some time from Hylissang. Now he's the man that's in trouble. That Unbreakable will eventually break when 4 members are running you down. Perks gets his second of the game and turns the attention to the mid lane tower. There's no defense from Fnatic.
It's another play set up by Jankos. He's the one going aggressive. It looked like he was all alone, but then instantly, Tahm Kench ulti and Rise ulti, and 4 members of G2 show up in that mid lane. Hyanin and the rest of the team, they're going straight towards the Rift Herald.
G2 utilizing both these globals to very quickly move from lane to lane and punish the slight mispositions that Fnatic are setting themselves up for. Hylissang gives away his life for his mid laners, and it will allow G2 to secure the Rift Herald.
Some of the big picks we looked at coming into the matchup was things like Rise and, of course, Tahm Kench for Wadid, because they offer this global here. Reckless is going all in.
Oh, Reckless is engaging once again. Jankos waiting on the sidelines, but look, Wonder is taking so long to go down. Facial Prism will buy some time. Devour from Wadid keeps him alive to escape.
Fnatic are really trying to get something here. Reckless jumps forward again, but he's not strong enough yet to take down a tank. Let's see the play from before. This is a 1v2 initially, But this is why Ryze and Tahm Kench are so good, because now you can send multiple members to the mid lane.
So easy to collapse. Good ulti there from Hylissang, but then he becomes the target. He does have his flash available, decides not to use it because he thinks that the collapse is going to come down regardless. It means he will still have that later if he wants to go in for one of those flashy plays that Hylissang loves to make.
And earlier we looked a little bit at the team fight setup between the two teams, as we often talk about with these big hyper carries on each side. It's all about killing the tanks first.
Yep.
When you have a Cho'Gath Feast on one side plus 2 damage dealers in Perkz and Yana, who are very good at just killing a front target, that's going to be superior compared to Fnatic's comp, which is a lot more focused on Reckless alone, just trying to find one target to get that kill. And it's going to take longer for Reckless to kill a tank compared to G2.
And I feel like that if Fnatic want to be the ones to have favorable setups in these fights, they need to utilize the poke that Caps will have once he completes the death cap. Fisher, you talked about how you typically do see a lot of AP being built on these mid lane Karmas. If you don't utilize it before the fight, his team fight value is largely diminished.
Yeah, and I also think we might see an Ardent Sensor come in from him, even though it's not the pure AP build, just because he needs to buff up Reckless even more.
Of course.
So that is definitely a potential choice for Caps. That could be very smart.
All right, we'll keep our eyes on that itemization. Still have to finish that death cap, gentlemen. And while we're looking at the map, G2 using the Rift Herald very effectively. Already taken the top tower. It's 3 towers to 1 in favor of G2. Nearly 4,000 gold lead for the defending champions. And they're off to a very strong start, led by Jankos's early game impact. And the question we had, gentlemen, will the teams be leaning into their strong side, playing around their weak side? For G2, pretty obvious answer for Jankos. I'll play all sides, because he ganked everywhere.
Now, what's interesting about this is when we had Reckless and Caps on PGL last week, something that they said was that in the past, G2 struggled to close out games. And it was often that G2 would draft these compositions where they'd have a carry top, they'd have the carry mid, and that they would find a lot of early game advantage because that's what their comp allowed them to get. But then they struggled to actually end things when their composition wasn't really designed for team fighting. This time around, G2, they actually have a good team fighting composition. They found themselves with an early game lead. And this time, I don't think Fnatic can just rely on the late game as they have done in the past versus G2 during the regular season.
Yeah, going to be very interesting to see the decision making, because now the Baron is an objective. Keep your eyes on that mini-map, as vision will become so important in setting up and playing around that objective. G2 Esports, they still maintain control right now.
Yeah, they're really far ahead in this game, also because their carries are the ones getting all the kills on their side. Wonder will struggle to battle against the cannon minion.
The most epic of all top lane battles.
Yeah, 2 banner of commands in the game already, both top laners. And actually, you talked about that early season games, Vedia, so how G2 got ahead early and then Fnatic bounced back. Take a look at the gold graphs of exactly how that looks.
And as Vedia has highlighted already, G2 in these kind of games didn't have the superior late game against Fnatic. But it's different in this one. They have a Jinx on their side. We know Cho'Gath is so good at killing front lines in these big team fights. So G2 Esports are not going to get outscaled by Fnatic. And with them having this goal lead, as long as they play correctly, they shouldn't actually give Fnatic a chance to get back in the game.
That's the big question. Can they out-teamfight Fnatic? Even though they have a pretty significant gold advantage at this point, they have a very solid composition. Fnatic, you can never underestimate them when you get into that 5v5 scenario.
Absolutely not, especially when Reckless is on Tristana. Taking a look at the items, though, a little behind. Ayed, Shiv, and Zeal for Reckless, going against the Hurricane and Rapid Fire Cannon for Hyanan. Void Staff picked up for Perkz. So he's going to be hitting like a truck in these next team fights. You see the Realm Warp will deliver some problems for Bwipo, who has consistently been the target throughout the majority of this game already.
And G2 should get full mid lane control. They have the superior AD carry, they have Tahm Kench as well. You can sit there, save Yarnan if he's too aggressive, or use that Tahm Kench ulti now aggressively to the sides. So it's very hard for Fnatic to play the map. They actually have to just concede the side lanes against the Ryze and the Cho'Gath, and it becomes all about the Baron. G2, they're starting it now. Let's see if they want to turn for the fight.
Find out. Teleport's coming
They can just finish.
They're going to rush it. They're going to rush it.
Instant Smite is available. Baron is already secured. Brox is now in the pit, but he's left alone. Glacial Fissure comes down as Wadid is going low. Going to get knocked out by that seismic shove. Here comes
it's a big one.
Fnatic may have found the fight. Jankos is going low. Cell division not yet popped. Bwipo Power's already killed the backline. Flash for the regular set. Fnatic are chasing. They're trying to cuss G2. They've done it. Perks has got one back. This is a messy fight as Baron will only be on a few members. Jankos has escaped with his life, and Perks will be looking to run down. Gonna try to survive, but in a 3-on-1, it is a matter of time. And your MVP will close it out with Hylissang.
What a huge fight for Fnatic. We were just talking about how you cannot afford to underestimate them in the 5v5, and G2, they were just grouped up in that Baron pit. It made it so easy for Fnatic to get the collapse, get the damage that they needed, and while they did not secure the Baron, they secured themselves 4 kills.
Well, let's see it one more time here. Perks' ult is not available, otherwise you normally kill the Baron and ult out with the Ryze and the entire team, but here it is now, means they're stuck in the Baron pit, and look at the bottom of your screen. Caps and Reckless are completely untouched. The only members taking damage from Fnatic are the tanks in the front, and this suddenly means that G2, despite being ahead in gold, cannot win the fight.
Oh, and then you're just setting up so nicely for Reckless. He had the pentakill in his eyes, and while he did not get the last hits, he was able to help his team secure the winning fight. Only a single member walks away with the Baron on G2.
And it's very big to highlight that before this Baron was started, Perks used that Ryze ult to try and catch out a Sion. A little bit too over-aggressive, wasn't even close to actually getting him. That meant it was on cooldown for when they rushed the Baron. Just think about it, they burn the Baron, they 5-man Ryze ult out, Fnatic never gets these kills.
Chasing the kill ends up hurting them, but G2, they've grouped up. Only one member with Baron, it's Jankos, 1-0-5 on that. Zach playing exceptionally well. The siege is on, and the tower has already fallen. Keep your eyes on the minimap. Wipo has got that unstoppable onslaught available, but not the greatest angle of entry.
He went to push out the bottom wave, hoping that that minion wave can take the tower as G2 just group up in mid. Fnatic don't feel confident to take the fight right now. 1 minute and 20 seconds left on the Baron. Fnatic could look for a fight, but Jankos is looking for one of his own.
That fight we had before here should be the most favored Fnatic fight we will get this game. One team is stuck in a Baron pit and they can't turn on your carries. That should not happen again. G2 are still in control, despite giving over some kills to the enemy AD carry. They're looking for another engage with Jankos.
Oh, the tension. The Alexis shot. Jankos is not fired just yet.
This is apparently not bronze solo queue where you face check everything.
You've got
Top tier quality.
You've got to show respect as well, but also Jankos has to be smart about his engage, because while he can create that kind of a distance between himself and the enemy team, the rest of his team can't always follow up on that. So he has to make sure that everyone else from G2 can follow up if he gets that kind of an engage.
Definitely the case. I mean, G2, yes, they're still in the lead. They got the gold from Baron, which means they are close to 4,000 gold up. Almost exactly, in fact. But taking a look at itemization really quick. Quicksilver Sash for Reckless. Keep himself alive with his 3rd damage item and the Zeke's Convergence as well. Locket of Iron Solari, so there's some tools there. And as we crossed 30 minutes on the clock, you're starting to feel that ticking time bomb of Ryze plus Jinx.
I think a lot of AD carries would not go QSS here.
I agree.
You have a lot of protection around you, but I've seen Reckless do this before when he's on mobile AD carries, because it probably makes him feel more confident in playing aggressive and being in the front. So it's a defensive item built to allow him to be more aggressive. Jankos is going in though.
All right, Let's Bounce is available. He's going to get rooted down. Just use defensively. Jankos pulls nobody back. This is a good start for Fnatic. Hylissang jumps onto the front line using that shield. Some time. Yaren is down! Reckless dunks him! It's a double kill for Fnatic, and they've got the advantage.
Whippo comes up huge, gets a knock-up onto Hyanan, and the rest of Fnatic collapse. They have their eyes on the Infernal Drake, and they secure themselves another teamfight win.
Oh, Fnatic, that was a big one from them. It was even fighting, but we saw Reckless get a ton of time to hit the front end of G2 before we got any fire back from G2 Esports themselves, and suddenly it's Fnatic in control.
Gotta track what Wadid used his consume on, because that was gonna be the primary target to keep Hyanan alive. G2 ended up with a negative Baron power play as Fnatic have come back into this game strong.
G2, they were waiting for Yanan's flash to be ready, but it wasn't up for the fight. And then without the time catch there, because he devoured Wonder to try and make sure he stayed alive, it suddenly meant that Whippo with a big knock-up can actually destroy Yanan.
Just before that fight, Audit Sensor also picked up by Cap, so all the tools to play into the Fnatic camp. That gold lead is dwindling. Gigantic crits onto Hyanan. as the tower is now being focused 4 towers to 4, and Fnatic are clawing this game back from the early game deficit they found themselves in.
You know, and it's funny because we talked about how G2 have this team fight composition. They shouldn't fall prey to the mistakes of the past where they get these early leads and then they end up losing them. But let's keep our eyes on Wadid. You know, because he's going into the fight. The initiation starts from Jankos. The ulti from Brox actually lands onto him, but he thinks, oh no, I have to keep Wonder alive because he's getting chunked down by Reckless. But then he realizes, the actual carry that I need to protect ends up getting caught. And Fnatic are very quick to punish.
Gentlemen, can I just bring up a graphic we saw a little bit earlier that reminded me of how G2 and Fnatic games went.
And this is exactly what we were just about to talk about, right? The fact that G2 got this early lead, and in the past, their composition was a large reason as to why they ended up falling behind in the late game. But now, Fnatic are just finding these opportune fights and putting G2 in these situations that they're always the ones coming out behind them.
But if you're G2 Esports, you can still mentally reset, tell yourself you have a great late game comp, you still have a Jinx on 4 fully completed items at 30 minutes. You can easily win the next few fights. Fnatic have gotten the advantage now, but that can swing right back to G2 Esports in the next team fight. Baron is spawning soon. We know with the Cho'Gath Feast, they can rush it down, either Ryze ulti away them, or look to turn for the actual fight. We have to see in the next one, because we know if Reckless gets caught, or if he's not allowed to deal damage, Fnatic, they won't kill anyone.
Yeah, definitely the case. And looking at the vision setup for G2, there's a couple of wards actually pushed into Fnatic's territory, so a little bit of early vision is 10 seconds away from Baron. Thank you, observers, for highlighting that one. And G2 still playing defensive. It feels like Fnatic have had to play into the darkness so frequently because of the fact they played from behind from the early game, but they haven't made many mistakes. They haven't overstepped or been punished despite the lack of...
No, they've been the one punishing the small mistakes from G2. The lack of flash from Hyanan, Wadid using his consume on Wonder to keep him alive, and then Hyanan being slightly out of position, allowing Fnatic to get that punish down. Now they're going for a play in mid.
All right, Hylissang's going to use stand behind me. Jumps up, gets the Unbreakable. Gigantic shield teleports in the back end from Guipo. Flame Choppers might buy some time. Jankos is already going low.
Hyanan's dead!
Hyanan is dead again with flash and heal available. Guipo's looking to find a little bit more. A flash forward from Hylissang. Gets a Winter's Bite as Wonder gets shot down in the back end. The kill picked up by Reckless. Wadid not going to get knocked up, but it doesn't matter. 3 kills to Fnatic.
And this is the worst timeline for G2 as Baron is alive. Reckless and the crew have their entire team alive, but their eyes are set on that middle inhibitor.
They got some minions coming. I think they want to go straight for the Nexus here. Reckless on Tristana can kill these turrets so fast. Another option is just mid-inhib and Baron, but with 20 seconds still on Hyanan, Wanda and Jankos even longer, they're looking for the finish.
The death timers are so high. Perks has to put on his blue suede dancing shoes to deal with 5 members of Fnatic. Wadid's going to help out for a little while longer, and Fnatic are chasing. It's Reckless that gets another, the 5th of the game. And despite losing early, despite falling behind, Fnatic fight back and strike first in the Spring Split Finals. They've not finished the game yet, because Hyanan and Perks, they're trying to... How did they do it? That was my win moment. But Hyanan will not go quietly. He's flashed forward, continues to chase.
Gonna get the reset.
Looking for the rocket.
It's Cho'Gath!
Here comes Wanda. Caps gets taken out. It's Hyanan gets a triple kill, and we're not done.
Oh my god, G2! They're able to get the base defense. Hyanan, when it mattered most, comes up clutch, and only Reckless walks away alive. Baron is up. Did G2 now try to go for the end?
They're going straight towards the mid lane at least.
No way.
Jankos is trying to stop a recall. He doesn't find Reckless, sadly, so Reckless is back in base.
Holy moly, G2, they're going to tank up the inhibitor turret. Keep your eyes on those death timers. 10 seconds.
They can't.
Reckless is already alive. G2 realize the folly and the braveness. They've peeled back for a safe Baron.
So they can still go for that Baron. Yeah, they have Feast available and everything, but it looked like it was over, and then Hyanan shows up. Fnatic were splitting between hitting Champions and the Nexus, and this Jinx in the late game got enough time to get their first kill, and suddenly the Jinx pops off.
G2 now walk away with a 5-man Baron after getting a successful base defense. So at this point, Perks, you think he's going to die at this point. You think, oh no, there's nothing they can do, but just look at the damage coming out from Hyanan, hitting onto the front line. He then changes his focus onto Reckless, and as Hylissang and Broxah try to defend him, they end up getting shut down.
Now we have to remember, both Nexus turrets died as we just see Yanan here get that last kill onto Cap. So if you are G2, you're constantly thinking, okay, there is a chance they pop a Karma, speed up, and Fnatic just rushes into this base if Fnatic are caught, also if G2 are caught out of control. But for now, they are still sitting with the base behind them. Fnatic are starting the Infernal Drake, and G2, they're not contesting, they're not risking anything.
Gentlemen, 2 Infernal Drakes for a team composition that does have slightly less damage built in. Could help out, but just how much? It's 35 minutes on the clock. It's an even gold game, and there are super minions pushing into G2, but Baron-empowered minions pushing towards Fnatic.
Let's see what Fnatic trying to do here. There's 1 outer turret left on the side of G2. They're currently hiding in the brush here with the tanks. I think Perks will get noticed. Fnatic will know exactly what's happening. Ganks checking. What a great first game. This is exactly what we wanted.
Please give me 5 of these. This is exactly what I want to shoutcast. Exactly what we want to see for a split final.
And to illustrate, this game could still go either way. The gold is dead even, but we're at a point where gold is going to mean less and less. The Baron is in favor of G2, but they do not feel confident enough to really leave their base when there is an exposed Nexus. The team fighting of Fnatic so far has come out on top because they've been the one finding those opportune fights. Crunching down on G2, who are trapped in the Baron pit, punishing the Flash to Yanan in the middle lane. Can G2 finally find themselves a successful fight? One that doesn't involve their Nexus on the line.
For now, they're trying to stack even more armor because they know it's all about the Tristana hitting them in these fights here. Even Perks going towards Ninja Tappy. Chain Vest on his side. Both AD carries are leading the charge in terms of damage as expected. Of course, as we highlighted before here, the Karma does actually deal some serious damage with her poke. She's just not great in the really the quick fights where it lasts like 5-6 seconds. She only gets off 1 Q. She doesn't really add anything else after that. But long, drawn-out fights with a lot of poking and continuing to buff up the team, she adds a ton of value.
And then, of course, there's the AoE shield as well. Mantra E, unstoppable onslaught from Wonder. He's going to be jumping in. Wonder not going to be the target just yet. Gets knocked up by Bwipo's. Bwipo's now running away. Stretching Strike going to be a little useless as the Glacial Prison buys some time. Still nobody caught. Extended long team fight. Exactly what Caps' Karma's looking for. But it was just enough to dissuade G2, push them back. This Baron buff has not equated to a loss.
No, G2 are just using it to defend for the time being. Just try and buy time for their inhibitor to respawn. Wait until they're in a state where they're in a better position to try and force some of these later fights.
Well, we keep seeing the team fights. Again, it's all about killing. Whatever meat shield is right in front of you. There's going to be a big blob on the side of G2 or a massive dinosaur, and you just hit him. You just try and kill him. And on the other side is this zombie dude, and of course, Roxa riding around on a wild animal. And it seems weird, but your job as an AD carry is just to kill whatever is right there.
You know, and we talked about how Wonder's ulti could be huge in helping that because it is the true damage. He will be able to chunk out a tank pretty significantly. But the other big thing in favor of Fnatic is the movement speed you also get from Caps allows Reckless to reposition and pretty much play as aggressively as he wants. Fisher, you talked so much about how he, as a player, loves to carry. He loves to be in these highlight moments. And when you have the support that you have from this Fnatic roster, you can't afford to just sit there and rest on your laurels because he's going to be looking to get into the backline and threaten whoever he can.
And I really like that Reckless is going Essence Reaver in this game here, giving him more cooldown reduction on this AD carry just because so much of his damage comes from him correctly activating rapid fire. Just click the Q when you know you have a bunch of time to actually hit the tanks, and lowering that cooldown can be huge for Reckless specifically in terms of how he can actually kill a tank on G2.
And picking himself up the Blade of the Ruin King to help a little bit with the shredding through the front line. We'll see how much of an assist that will provide him with as G2 right now defending their base. Fnatic is a 5-man group. They have set up a slow push in the top lane. I believe the wave is pushing ever so slightly in favor of G2 towards the bot, but Fnatic are the ones with priority over them.
Oh, Fnatic all of a sudden have been in control. They've taken charge of game 1. Thanks to a series of team fights. If you looked at the first 20 minutes of gameplay, you think G2 have this game in the bag. If you look at the second 20 minutes of gameplay, you think Fnatic are going to have this game in the bag. And now as we get past 14 minutes in game 1, a big team fight, a vision blunder, a setup around Elder or Baron, which spawn in roughly the same time, is what is going to determine the victor of game 1 in our finals.
G2 still hiding around, hoping someone maybe face checks against the Cho'Gath. Not happening. G2 will look at this game and be a bit sad about some of the fights that happened 15, 20 minutes ago where they actually were in control, but they were forcing and they were trying so hard to catch out someone like Hylissang. He's the Braum, he's the support. You end up overextending, going for him, and Fnatic punished him because of it. But because we had that big play at the Nexus from Yanin, there's still time for G2 to win this game. Almost dead even in gold, double Infernal however for Fnatic's side.
And take a look at that 9th tower picked up by Fnatic. If you have just joined us, look at the minimap. Exposed Inhibitor and Nexus. G2 were able to defend their Nexus, much to my surprise, because of Hyanin respawning and helping out Perks. But G2 are dancing on a razor's edge as Fnatic continue to pressure them. Right, 58 seconds for Baron, 40 seconds for Elder. Some vision in G2's territory for Fnatic, but neither of them have set up significant steps towards either objective.
It's really important to keep an eye on the vision control because Fnatic, by having all 3 lanes pushed up, they could maintain control over G2's half of the map. But with all the vision that they've now restocked themselves with, they can look to get mid-priority and start playing around either Elder or Baron.
You have to remember some of these AD carries in the late game. They can solo the Elder Drake. They have the lifesteal and the attack speed to just sit there, and while the rest of the team are keeping the other ones busy around mid, it is something we always have to look for when we have this stalemate around 2 big objectives. On the side of G2, they might look for something. Fnatic jumping in as well.
All right, Hyanin sold his boots in favor of that Phantom Dancer. Let's see what damage he can put down or if he's caught out. Glacial Prisoner teleports to the back end. Fnatic, they've already got the passive from Jankos. The fight's not done yet. Reckless is being trying. Focus down from Perks. Perks flashes away defensive. Reckless gets him. Turns onto the Elephants. That's a double. He's not done yet. Firing away onto Wonder. Looking for more. Winter's bite tags Hyanin. Wonder survives for a few seconds longer. The bomb explodes. It's a triple. Has he
He's going for the penta.
Spring split MVP. Trying to find more. Doesn't want to go toe to toe. Shot back and forward.
He's got to kill him. That's the penta.
Going forward. The quadra. The penta kill for Reckless.
Reckless! What a hero for Fnatic. The superior AD carry comes out on top, and they're going for the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, in 42 minutes, Copenhagen, are you not entertained? Fnatic take game 1.
And this game showed exactly why Reckless are the MVP of the spring split.